Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Thursday edition of the Rodcast, which means we're creeping closer and closer to the weekend, getting ready for some football, college football, NFL football, and we'll talk about it all here on the show today. We'll continue to preview Texas Longhorns' upcoming opponent, Vanderbilt. We'll get into that when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. The Dallas Cowboys, more issues for the Dallas Cowboys. We'll dive into it. Of course, there are some salacious headlines dealing with the Dallas Cowboys, but also something substantive. The Cowboys actually going to have some real problems on their hands. We'll get into that coming up here in this segment. We'll also talk about the Texans a little bit and get into the Texans' upcoming opponent. They got to play the Indianapolis Colts at home. But the Texans, they also got some issues from last week's game. They got to deal with pass protection issues. We'll talk about that. Texans also signed a linebacker. They got some depth issues at linebacker, some injuries. We'll get into that too coming up a little bit later on the show. We also will dive into Raj rant. That'll probably be a Texas Vanderbilt related rants to get into it. Also, we'll have your usual favorites on the show. Who said that? What the facts? What the stats? We'll also have off the record. We'll have the topic for the big fat poll of the day. We are loaded on a Thursday as usual. We'll also continue to review some of the other moves that were made. A couple of trades that happened yesterday, but we'll continue to talk about that DeAndre Hopkins trade. That was the biggest one of the day, and of course, there will be there'll be a domino effect. There'll be a butterfly effect throughout the league because of that, because the Kansas City Chiefs, the last undefeated team, were the ones to make that move. Maybe this is the move that kind of breaks Patrick Mahomes out of his funk with the worst start to any season so far in his career this season, but they're 6-0. We'll get into that and more. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It is our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm glad I'm here. I had the nightmare of waking up, and I was like, I wonder what time my alarm's going off. You're like, oh, apparently, in my sleep, I have shut off all three of my alarms and overslept. So,
oh no,
I still woke up in time, but got here in plenty of time. But yeah, that was. That nightmare,
so like sleepwalking kind of stuff. Like
I have no idea
because
it was. I was like trying to figure. I was like, did my alarms even go off this morning? What happened? Because I woke up within like 30 minutes of all of them supposed to be going off. Yet I didn't hear one of them. Normally, Lou, when my alarms go off, he starts to get up and kind of come over and try and nudge me. And he was still just laying down. He was out. So I don't know what happened this morning, but luckily
he must have came over and nudged you, and you wasn't having it. He's like,
I don't know, but I still
it's the weekend. He's like, I guess it must be the weekend.
I don't know.
I thought it was Thursday, but it's okay.
Luckily, my body alarm still got me up in plenty of time. So
the natural alarm clock, man, it's a beautiful thing.
So we got that going, but yeah, that was not a fun when you wake up. And you're like, it feels like it should have already gone off already. Like I'm pretty well rested for turned over. Like, oh no,
I'm never well rested, but I do understand the panic because I never wake up with my alarm clock. When I do, I know I was really tired. Like I know I was really tired. Usually I start waking up around that time, around 3:45, around 4. You know what I mean? I'll start waking up right before 4 o'clock usually. And then I'll keep the alarm from going off because it wakes my wife up, and then she's like, "What's going on?" So I'm with you. I usually my natural body clock, my body alarm usually wakes me up. My natural alarm.
Yeah. So I was happy to have that this morning because nothing else seemed to be working.
Oh man, that is scary. That's scary, man.
Yeah, no fun. Yeah, well, I'll tell you. Let me introduce you to my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is a new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Yeah, you like Kramer from Seinfeld.
Yes.
What happens to your mental alarm? Yeah, sometimes the mental alarm will fail you, man. Trust me. It's good, and that's because your body needs it. Your body needs some rest. That's basically what it's trying to tell you. All right, well, I'm glad you're here, Patrick. Couldn't do it without you. So appreciate you. He'll come up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day that'll be coming up around 6:50 or so. We'll also have we'll get to the Texas Vanderbilt game, so we'll continue our preview and go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment. I got some thoughts about some other news, notes, and nuggets that I have gathered about that matchup. We'll start off talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Apparently, there was an article that upset a lot of current and former Cowboys. We'll get into it about the tours around the Cowboys facilities. Apparently, this was a thing. Well, we'll get into it, and we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about what I think actually is that's a salacious issue for the Cowboys, which Jerry Jones loves. But the real issue is their kicker, Brandon Aubrey. He's got jury duty. And there's no timeline on when he's going to be back with the team. Like, that's a real thing.
Oh
Nick, I know they're talking about I mean, they already got a ton of injuries, so they're a mass unit pretty much going into this 49er game. But via Nick Harris of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Aubrey is serving on a 12-person jury in a felony assault case in Tarrant County. The Cowboys reportedly tried to get him excused. Of course they did. I mean, and I'm sure they used every trick in the book. And but he insisted on doing it. He wanted to perform his civic. Give it up. He was like, "No, man." He probably wants some time off. He's like, I'm good. But I don't know. He said so. He insisted on doing it. The case continues on Thursday and Friday. The presiding judge reportedly will work with Aubrey's football schedule. So apparently won't miss like a game or anything like that. But he's like not practicing with the team, which is
Aubrey's just going to be in there
practicing on his own.
Aubrey's just going to be in there, and they'll be like, "Well, we think he's guilty." He's like, "I'm pretty sure not guilty, guys. We have to sit here and discuss this for longer."
He's gonna be the one hanging the jury.
Yeah.
He's gonna be
all right. You convinced not guilty. Maybe I'm on the other side now, you guys. I don't know.
Yeah, because he doesn't practice. Well, he I'm sure on his own he gets some work in, but because of the schedule of the jury, he's not practicing with the team all the time. But he's going to be available for games, so don't freak out about that. But I wonder if that'll affect his game readiness or whatever it is. So he better not be missing the kicks. So if he does, people are going to automatically jump on this story. Just throwing it out there. They'll be like, "Hey, he's not practicing with the team." I'm sure that'll be something they talk about on the broadcast anyway.
Yeah,
because
we know kickers practicing with the team is probably the most important thing.
Very true. I can vouch for that. They are on the practice fields, but you don't see them to the end of practice or special teams periods.
Do you see them
in special teams periods and then end of practice when they usually do like a kicker drill at the end of practice, like a hurry up kicker drill.
But like when do you see them?
Those are the only times you see the kickers.
How many times do you see them if you're on the tour though?
Exactly. You might see him. You might see him quite a bit on the tour. Yeah, we'll get to that because that's a funny story. And of course, Jerry Jones has already. There's a statement from Jerry Jones about the many opinions people have about his stadium, the very unique Cowboy stadium tours, and they are unique. They're unlike any other NFL stadium tours around the league, and we'll tell you why that is the case and why apparently it is a controversial issue. Everything seems to be with the Dallas Cowboys. We'll also give you some injury update. Micah, we'll give you an injury update on him. The 49ers actually, maybe an update there. This is, like I said, the 49ers won't have any of their stars really available. Even Kittle's now day-to-day, I believe. I think Kittle's going to play. Kittle's tough. He's always got something that's lingering. He always got an issue, but Kittle's going to play. But there is talk now that Debo, that they may be optimistic that Debo potentially could play, even though he was dealing with some type of illness that had fluid in his lungs. He actually had some time that is spent in the hospital. So we'll see. But right now, the Cowboys and the 49ers, kind of a battle of attrition between these two teams, man. I don't know who can end up healthy enough to be able to win that game. But if the Cowboys are going to beat the 49ers, now is the time. They've never been weaker. They've never seen the 49ers since they've started their ascent to competing for Super Bowls in the Shanahan tenure. They've never been this weak. They've never been this injured. They just don't look like their usual selves. We'll see if the Cowboys can get back on track against the 49ers this week. So we'll talk about that and we'll preview that matchup, of course. But first, let's get into the Horn headlines. So let's get updated, let's get educated, let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA last night, the Rockets lost their season opener to the Hornets after Charlotte overcame an 18-point deficit late in the first half. Alperen Sengun had 25 points and 18 rebounds, and Jalen Green added 28 more points, but a near triple-double performance from LaMelo Ball proved too much. Tonight, the Spurs and Mavs begin their seasons against each other at 6:30 on TNT. This will mark the regular season debut of Chris Paul as a Spur and Klay Thompson as a Maverick. Devin Vassell out for the game, recovering from an offseason foot injury. And in the NFL, the 5-1 Rams look to get back on the winning track against the Rams on against the one. If I win, Vikings look to get back on track against the Rams on Thursday Night Football. Amid trade rumors, Cooper Kupp is expected to make his return to the field tonight, which could be a big boost for the Rams, with Puka Nacua still listed as questionable and Jordan Whittington listed as out for the game. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Appreciate those as always. So a story came out at ESPN by Kaylin Kaler, and she wrote a story about the Cowboys stadium tours, which every team around the country has stadium tours, so it's not necessarily a huge deal. But the Cowboys stadium tours are unique because of the inside access. Usually players, like player areas, all right, and all the workout areas specifically for the players, training areas for the players, those are usually considered off limits, and you don't have access to those areas when you're taking the stadium tours. Well, the Cowboys give you more access than other teams. And Jerry Jones likes that, right? That's why their stadium tours are so successful. I'm sure everybody else has really successful stadium tours too, but the Cowboys stadium tours apparently are among the most successful, or the most successful in the NFL. They say they make about $10 million a year just off stadium tours. That's a lot of money. Yes, as the Cowboys say, tours of the Star and AT&T Stadium combined sell about 500,000 tickets per year and generate nearly $10 million of annual revenue, which is considered football-related income and included in the league's revenue sharing with the players and all that kind of stuff, who receive 48%. So the tour's unique access to like the inner workings of the team, that increases fan interest. But in this story, there are a lot of quotes from players, and some players who talk about how, I guess, how much of a distraction, how much of a disruption some of the stadium tours are because of the inner workings of like them having access to the inner workings and those very sensitive areas of the stadium where the players consider that to be their their safe haven. All right, that's their sacred area, and they claim, and here's some of the quotes, that these stadium tours disrupt that culture. They disrupt that vibe that the players are trying to create there. Dorrance, this is a quote from Dorrance Armstrong, who's a former Cowboy, but now with the Commanders. This is from the article. By the way, we'll read some of the players' tweets who read the article, and some of them are disputing their quotes in this article. Just throwing that out there as well. Dante Fowler, he's one of them. He was quoted here saying, "You got real facilities here." And he's talking about the Commanders. "You got real facilities here. You might not see tourists coming around, but he keeps the main thing. He says, "I didn't say that, Cap," via Twitter. Dorrance Armstrong is quoted in his article saying, "I'm smiling when I walk in the building here." He's with the Commanders now. "I just know, like, I just have work." Meaning, I don't have to worry about entertaining visitors and guests. It says here, Tony Pollard, who's with the Tennessee Titans now, is a quote from him, who says, "This is more about football, X's and O's here." He says, "I'm in a better place mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, just all around." There's another quote from Kelvin Joseph, who also disputes his quote via Twitter. He says, "Over here," he's at Kansas City, "the point is football and winning championships." He went on to say, "There in Dallas, it was a lot of football and like other stuff." And then Kelvin Joseph's tweet, "LOL, they tried to set us up," is his tweet there. The Cowboys, this is a quote from J-Ron Curse. I didn't see anything him disputing this quote, but this is what he is quoted as saying in the article. "It's like you're in a zoo and kids are going to see a lion. That's not a reason why we didn't get over the hump, but I just don't think that really equates to winning," is what he said. Jordan Lewis, he actually was quoted being asked about the article and said, "It's Jerry's world. That's not our job to go out there and tell Jerry what to do with his organization. Our job is to go out there and win games, regardless of if you see tours as a distraction, like the media or anybody else. We got to do our job, regardless of the circumstances. So we can't look at it like that. He made a multi-billion-dollar organization like this. It's not going to stop. So get used to it. And that actually is a quote from Jerry Jones, and this quote is actually in the article too. But Jerry Jones says, and this actually it perfectly fits. When he was asked about the tours, whether they'd be a distraction and players and their quotes, he says, "Not one." He said, "He said not one time, but the most important. Not one time has a player complained to him about the stadium tours. But the most important thing is it wouldn't make any difference, period. Because overall, they're swimming against the stream." Yeah, he's like, those things are too popular. They make way too much money. It doesn't matter if it's a slight distraction for the team. We're gonna still give our really inside access tours, more inside access than any other NFL team, because that's what makes us unique. And listen, I applaud Jerry Jones because I think as a marketing mind, he is brilliant. He really is. Like, he is just brilliant. And people don't understand that Jerry Jones figured out a long time ago that the NFL is just a television show. And he figured it out way before everybody else did. Tex Schramm probably figured it out before he did, because Tex Schramm said at one point, we're just going to be playing this thing in a studio. When the stadiums, he said, we just need the crowds for the fan effect. But one day we're just going to be playing this damn thing in a studio. And he's probably right. He's probably going to have like AI and virtual reality, going to put the fans in there, and then we're just going to be watching the studio. But anyway, Jerry Jones figured out, listen, it's a TV show, and I want the Cowboys to be the number one TV star on the number one TV show in America. And that was his goal, and he achieved that goal. But they still operate that way, and they have to operate that way. They operate as, sometimes a wacky reality TV show, that's what we're dealing with here. Wacky reality TV show. You get to see the players hang out. I remember Dalton Schultz said something like that when he came to the Texans. Remember, he said something very similar, like, yeah, there are people are, they get access to, looking at you lift weights, and they're watching you work out, just random fans. And he says, here at the Texans, we don't have any of that. And because it is very different. But you must give Jerry credit. His goal, if you look at y'all's goal, is to win championship. Now, that used to be Jerry's goal. And I think it's one of his goals now. But I think his ultimate goal was to make him the number one TV star on the number one TV show. And this part of it, this method, that inside access, because he understood that we're a celebrity-driven society, right? We're a celebrity-obsessed society. I mean, as TMZ made a whole niche industry about it. We're obsessed with celebrities. We want to know all. We want to know how they live, what they eat. It's weird. It is a weird obsession, but we're all guilty of it. And he understands that his players are celebrities. He's going to give you access. That's why he doesn't mind when they do podcasts and when they do their own thing. He wants them talking to the media. He wants them creating their own brand, because all their brands just make people think about the big brand, which is the most lucrative and the most, and the most profitable brand in all the sports in the world, which is the Dallas Cowboys. So if you're looking at him as him trying to achieve that goal, then this is a key element of it. But if your goal is to win championships, then you may see this as maybe a distraction or a disruption to that goal. Now, I do think it's a minor one. If the players are complaining about this, then come on now. It's you are a public figure. Now, I get you want some privacy, and maybe that's a little intimate for people to be walking past the weight room and stuff like that. I get that, but this is not the reason the Cowboys aren't winning championships. We'll admit that. Now, Jerry may be the reason, and this may be reflective and symbolic of that. This may be a microcosm of the much larger issues with the Cowboys. No doubt about that. But it is a micro issue for the Cowboys. Michael Parsons also said you got to call BS when you read it. So he's claiming that this entire article is BS too.
And I get it's, if you have one job and everything's fine at that job, and you go to another job and they have something that's better, like they have chips out or something like that, and they something wait, what do you say? It's a micro.
It
thing.
is. No, it could be free breakfast. You're right.
When you walk out and then you're like, hey, so you can do that 9 a.m. meeting. You can do it via your phone now. You don't have to come into the meeting. And another company's like, you have to be in the meeting. And you're like, man, my life's just easier now because I don't have to deal with this. That's what it is. So does it actually, if you're a top player and you're in the NFL, should it mean the difference between you winning Super Bowls and not? No. But it is the microcosm of Jerry Jones saying, I don't care if every player walked in this room right now and told me, Jerry, we're never going to win another football game if you make these people come through. I tell them, screw you. I'll take $10 million a year over winning another game in my life. That is more the microcosm. The money is more important than the players. The money is more important than the wins. The money is more important than the fans. The money is more important than anything else. And I don't care. It's about making money because that's the one thing I'm good at.
He's great at it.
I'm really, really good. I'm as good as anybody else at making money. Pretty okay as a GM. Just okay as a GM. But I'm really good at making money. So why would I want to be the best GM? I'll never be the best GM. So I'll just be really good at making money and I'll be an okay GM. And then I'll say I'm a success because of what I'm focusing on. Now, you could just hire a GM and have both, but Jerry doesn't want to do that either. So
yeah, because then you get the credit. He wants the credit too. That's what we forget. Yeah. If he hires a GM and the GM succeeds, then everybody's gonna be like, "You should have hired a GM already." Yeah. See what happens when you hire a football guy. And Jerry does not want that either. You see, he's not dealing well with the Derrick Henry storyline.
No,
he's not handling it very well, guys. He's a lot of pressure on him because of the Derrick Henry storyline.
I mean, just the way he handled this interview, where he says it wouldn't make a difference anyway. Like, Jerry, that's not a way. You're not supposed to talk, because you can't say no one's ever complained. And by the way, if they did, I'd slam the door in their face. I wonder why no one complains.
I think that's why nobody complains about it, Jerry.
Jerry, you can't say this is a non-starter. I won't listen to you if you do it. By the way, no one complains. Like, yeah, you're paying them millions of dollars. This is not one that they're going to lose their job over.
Yeah, nobody really complains to the boss that much anyway. Like, that's something you try to avoid. Yeah. As in general, like at every job, like, I'm not going straight to. I complain to my coworkers. They all know how I feel about it. I'm disgruntled with them, but with my boss, I'm not disgruntled with my boss usually. No. I mean, that's just. And so I feel the players like, yeah, nobody's going to come complain to you about that.
Knocking on those giant double doors to his office. Jerry, you got a minute from instead of yelling at radio people? You got a minute to?
Oh yeah. Like, you gotta have like two people like to pull them apart. But no, I think that there's a lot of that lately where, you know, Cowboys fans, they're looking at some of these things as a microcosm of the much larger macro issue. I mean, we've had people now start talking again about the construction of the stadium, how the stadium is built and how it's engineered, and how the glare of the sun, right, is something that basically can be avoided in AT&T Stadium. We know they built it so the sun could shine in because Jerry wanted that light, that beautiful light for all the beautiful pictures and how the aesthetics of it and how it would look on television. And it does look amazing. But it also literally makes it tougher to execute offensively and defensively on the field because there is a glare that is present at the Cowboys Stadium that you don't get really any other stadium. And they do reportedly have methods, and they do have different ways to block the sun, even with the stadium built the way it is. They have like these large
because they use it for curtains and stuff.
Yeah, they industrial sized curtains that they can move. Yeah, they still can do it, but Jerry refuses to use any of that technology because he likes the pictures. He likes the aesthetics and how to view. And so it's once again another microcosm of the style over substance. And it's like, no, you should want the best ideal environment so that your team can succeed and execute. Like that is about, so make that a home. If you want to make it a home field advantage for your team somehow, teams do that all around the league all the time. You can do that, but that is not a home field advantage. That is just a style over substance matter, or a style over substance decision. And I think there are a lot, people want to point out there are a lot of those for the Cowboys, a lot of style over substance decisions. And you should be more substance over style decisions with the Cowboys. So I get it, but they still are the number one TV star on the number one TV show in America. You must admit they did it. Jerry Jones did achieve that goal. There's no question about it. And I think that was one of his goals. Maybe he's a little too fixated on that these days. All right. There you go. Some Cowboys discussion. We'll get back to Cowboys. I want to preview that 49ers Cowboys matchup coming up, and I'll give you some updates on some of the injuries, both sides, by the way. Got some key injuries and some hope, maybe some optimism that guys are going to be coming back. Speaking of injuries, the availability report, it came out yesterday, the first one. Three of them usually before the kickoff of the college football games on the weekend. But we got the first one, so we'll go over behind the Burns curtain, the Longhorn side of the injury report, the Vanderbilt side of the injury report, what it tells us about both teams that match up. We'll also get into previewing Texas Vanderbilt a little bit more. I got a couple of other notes for you about that matchup coming up. We'll do that, and we'll also have your topic for the Big Fat Poll Day. It'll be later on in 6 o'clock. That'll be coming up as well. But we'll come back right here with Behind the Burnt Orange Curtain, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas Vanderbilt conversation here. I saw the availability report came out yesterday. First one, of course. They have many of these that come out before kickoff. And for the Longhorns, you did have a few players that may have been a bit of a surprise on the availability report. First of all, we know for the Longhorns, the running back position has been decimated. So you ended up, of course, the guys who have been on it all year long. CJ Baxter out, Christian Clark out, Veldon Gardner is out too. I know it for a while he was just on here listed in different, had different status, but he's out. Not assuming he's gonna be out too for the rest of the season. But Andrew Makuba is doubtful. Remember, Andrew Makuba had the injury, the lower leg injury in the Georgia game. I don't think he's going to play. Even Sark said earlier this week that he expects Jelani McDonald and have to be the starters for that Vanderbilt game. And the way that who was looking, I don't think he. I mean, I think he's going to be fine later on, but I don't think he will play, and they'll risk him playing versus Vanderbilt and traveling on the road too. Safety position. Speaking of, Derek Williams is out, of course. He's been out for a couple of weeks. And now the safety position, though, I will say that the safety position right now is a bit worrisome, just a little bit. I think Jelani McDonald is a good player, but this is Jelani McDonald's first start. He's been getting more and more increased action as the season has gone on. I saw him play more in the Oklahoma game. He played a little bit more because I remember Taft left the game for a little while in that Oklahoma game. Last week, of course, with Derek Williams being out, you saw more Jelani McDonald too. So his reps have been increasing. I think it's possible that Vanderbilt could target Jelani McDonald just because, and not that he's a bad player, just because there are not a lot of weaknesses on the Texas defense. If I'm looking at the Texas defense as a whole, I mean, it's the number one defense in the country, total and scoring defense, number one stop rate defense in the country. They just don't have a lot of weaknesses. And you start building a game plan off of, all right, what are their weaknesses? What's the what is the vulnerability? What can I expose? Where's the thread that I can pull on, and then maybe the whole damn thing will unravel. That's what you're looking for. And I'm not saying that's gonna be Jelani McDonald, but if I'm Vanderbilt looking at it, that's the one I might build some of my game plan around attacking that player. Around seeing if I can occupy their eyes. How disciplined are his eyes? How well does he run the alley coming downhill to be a forced run defender? Does he take proper angles to the football? Maybe he's a defender that we're trying to set up in our RPO game to read him. Something I think there are different ways they can do it. Now, I think there are a couple of ways you can avoid him potentially being exposed. You're going up against a running football team. You're going to be playing a lot of base personnel. That's where Bama screwed up when they were facing Vanderbilt. They tried to, I guess they were a little arrogant and cocky. I mean, who wouldn't be facing Vanderbilt? You didn't know this would be a different Vanderbilt team with Diego Pavia leading the way with Clark Lee, but they stayed in nickel. They stayed in the sub package going up against the power personnel packages of Vanderbilt, 13 personnel, 12 personnel, 30 personnel, and they're in nickel. And it's like, well, no wonder they're pounding the rock and able to get, 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust on you. And they were able to, keep the football for 40 plus minutes against Bama. A big part of why they pulled off that upset. You want to match them with base personnel. You do. I think they have earned that respect from Texas. I would match them. I would go with my 3-4. I'd go with, your 4-3 looks. You can. I noticed a lot of the Michigan game plan. I remember looking at that Michigan game plan where Texas, think about it. They expect to play a power running football team, and they played more base than we expected. And they used bear front with their 3-4. Bear front is just when you got the center and both guards covered by your 3 down linemen. They used a bear front. They used a penny front, which is 3 down, 2 overhang edges on the outside and inside middle linebacker there. And that was, they ran that from a kind of a 3-3-5. With 3 down linemen, the 3 linebackers, 2 of them were overhangs on the edges, and 1 was the middle linebacker there. And they did that from a 3-3-5 stack. Like I said, you can match them with base, but they're going to play some nickel. When they play some nickel, maybe that's the penny front is what you go with, that 5-1 front. Remember against Michigan, they used that 3D tackle look against Michigan in their 3-4. I think that's something that you could break out and use and deploy versus Vanderbilt. That will be really, really helpful. I think you got to make sure, and I would take some of that game plan you had from the Oklahoma game. You got to make sure you keep spies on Diego Pavia on passing downs. Now they try to stay out of predictable passing downs by getting 3 yards in the cloud of dust, and they're a running football team. Their tight end is their leading receiver, Eli Stowers. So they want to be in a balanced, manageable situation at all times. 1st and 10 is the only time they want to be in a long to gain situation in football. They want to keep it. They want to keep everything within medium or short distance. If you get them in a long situation, 2nd and long, 3rd and long, then you're already, that's half the battle against Vanderbilt, and they're really good at staying out of those situations. But getting back to it, I would have your double spies that you used against Michael Hawkins. And against Oklahoma, remember Oklahoma was running. They started running some design quarterback run game. They're using that 2-back set, more of a heavy set, and using some zone read option looks against Texas. So that was a good look for Texas to see going into this Vanderbilt game. And I think those double spies on Hawkins, you definitely gonna need it with Pavia. He's great at scrambling. 162, I believe, scrambling yards on the season. He's great at being able to improvise and in the open field. Tougher to bring down, you think, because he's shorter. I mean, they say he's like 6 foot, but I don't know. I think he's like 5'10", 5'11", and he's a former wrestler, so he's got great balance. Can break tackles out in the open field. You want to put 2 spots. He's not twitchy like Michael Hawkins, but he's a tougher runner, tougher to bring down, and break some more tackles. I believe he's got 22 forced missed tackles. 22 forced missed tackles on the season too. So he can, like a running back, pretty much in the open field. He really can be dynamic in his own way. Like, he's not that fleet-footed, but like I said, he's a tougher out in the open field than you think. So I think there's some things you've already worked on in your game plans with some of these run-led, rushing-oriented teams that you definitely can use versus Vanderbilt. But I think if they do, let's just assume they have a good game plan. Let's say they target one weakness, which is Jelani McDonald. I would probably put him in the box instead of having him have to run from depth from 12 to 15 yards to try to run the alley to be a force run defender. He's big enough. I might just put him down in the box and have Taft Daddy as my single high safety and the guy over the top. You're not scared of their wide receivers because they're not really a threat to you if you're Texas. So I would trust my DBs to be able to hold up on the outside against their wide receivers. One thing, though, you might want to do is play a lot more zone to have eyes on Pavia, just in case he does break something and get to the second level. You want eyes on that dude. And you want your DBs being able to look at him so they can see him. And if he is breaking, now you want them to have disciplined eyes because you don't want them to be able to expose you with double moves, get over the top, the stalk block and go. I'm sure they're going to break that out potentially against Texas too. But you want your guys disciplined. So tell them be slow. They play pass first, but you need eyes on this dude. You need eyes on Pav. You watch him long enough, he's going to make something happen at the line of scrimmage, break to the second level, and you need the guys to be able to converge on him so it's easier to corral that dude out in open space. So that's something I'd keep in mind. I'd also, and I throw this out there too, Jahdae Barron is playing like the best corner in the country. Pro Football Focus has him rated as the top cornerback right now in college football with he's got an 89.1 grade, right? Highest graded power 4 cornerback. I would potentially challenge him this week that if Jelani McDonald's not getting it done, let's say they're exposing Jelani McDonald. I mean, you got your starting safeties, 2 starting safeties out for you because they consider Derek Williams a starter. They can obviously consider Makuba to be that too. So you got one of your backups in there, and let's just say he gives up some plays. Let's just say their game plan to attack him works really well. I would be prepared to put Jahdae Barron in there at safety. You should be able to trust Gavin Holmes and Malik Muhammad to be able to hold up against whoever they're going to have out there at wide receiver. It's actually not very relevant. And Jahdae Barron being at safety would help you cover their top wide receiver, or top receiver, I should say, which is Eli Stowers. Their top guy is a tight end who actually was a transfer from New Mexico State. So he's got a little bit of chemistry, already built in with Diego Pavia. He's the guy you got to stop. And it's easier to cover a tight end from the safety position than it is a corner, just in terms of the architecture of the defense. And maybe you want to do it anyway and say, you know what, we're going to shut down their number 1 receiving weapon. We're just going to put Jahdae over the top of them. On any down that we think they're going to throw it, we'll have Jahdae over the top, and Jahdae can be a force run defender. We know he can play the run if he needs to. He's had a couple of snaps at safety this year. The versatility, I think, is something that you want to champion anyway, because I said at the beginning of the season, if you want him to be a Thorpe Award finalist, Well, he probably could be one anyway now, just because of how well he's playing at cornerback. But if you want to guarantee it, you promote him and sell him as the most versatile defensive back in the country. And right now, he can prove it. He's got a 71 slot, I think, snaps this season as a slot corner, the nickel corner, almost 250 at the outside cornerback, and put him at safety. I think he's got like 8 snaps at safety, but you let him play, I don't know, 30 snaps at safety in this game versus Vanderbilt, and I guarantee he'd make a play or two just because he's a great football investigator, as I like to call him. That might be something to consider. I would consider it, because just so they won't be able to exploit maybe your one question mark or uncertainty on defense. And you would, in my opinion, also have an answer for their top receiving threats in case our safeties aren't necessarily up to the task. He's a good tight end, by the way. His name is Eli Stowers. He actually is a former quarterback, so he's got high football IQ. He was committed to Texas A&M, or I think went to Texas A&M one time, transferred to New Mexico State, and according to Pro Football Focus, he's the highest graded power forward tight end. Eli Stowers, 89.3 grade at Vanderbilt. So he's a threat. And I think the two biggest threats on the team, three, I should say, I think it's Diego Pavia, number one, because everything revolves around him, especially third and fourth down. They are top 10. Brought this up yesterday. They're top 10 in third down conversion rate. They are top 15 in fourth down conversion rate. And all of that pretty much stems from Diego Pavia and the very unique combination of concepts and elements they use, which we'll talk about here in a second. But third and fourth down, his Pro Football Focus grade 90. He's great. In his 5 wins, his third and fourth down grade in their 5 wins is 92. In their 2 losses, his third and fourth down grade is 61. Very big difference. You gotta win. You gotta win on first down, number one, because you want to put them in a third and long. And if you put them in a third and long, their playbook shrinks to about a fifth of what they normally have access to, because they're not built that way as a team. And I think if you're Texas, so one of your big, I think, challenges in this game is going to be, how do you create a negative play on early downs? Because you don't want them ahead of the chains. You don't want them on schedule. If they get 3 yards in the cloud of dust, that's actually exactly what they want. And they want to, milk the clock, right? They get 3 yards in the cloud of dust, and it puts them on track for, a 8 to 9 play drive where they can just milk the clock and then end up punting. They're 11th in time of possession, 33 minutes, 132nd in pace of play. They're 8th in third down conversion rate, 13th in fourth down conversion rate, and 2nd in giveaways, like turnovers. So they don't turn the ball over very much. They're 46th in tackles for loss allowed, so not a lot of tackles for loss and negative plays allowed. Taking care of the football, converting, and moving at a snail's pace, as slow as they possibly can, screwed and chopped, and then keeping the ball as long as they can to limit possessions for you. That's their best defense. They don't have a good defense. Their defense they got a top 70 pass defense, a top 50 scoring defense. I think they're like a top 70 red zone defense. Maybe they're a top 90 third down defense. So they're not special defensively. What they do offensively helps aid their defense, because they just limit possessions and they hold on to the ball so damn long. Their defense is not out there long enough to be exposed. And that's going to be part of the challenge, because the complementary element is big. I think Texas, they got to play 3 and out football, get that offense of Vanderbilt's off the field as quickly as possible, which is part of that stop rate we talk about. They lead the country in stop rate, just getting teams off the field with punts, turnovers, or turnover on downs. And then it's going to be up to the offense, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So it'll be up to the offense to. This is the game where you work out the kinks offensively. Because you faced some good defenses the last 2 games. Of course, you play Georgia. That's a great defense. Actually, Oklahoma's defense is great too. Offensively, we'll talk about it. If they can't, get out of that slump versus Vanderbilt's defense, then maybe it's time to be concerned about the issues offensively, or maybe whatever the regression of Quinn, whatever the reason is, the lack of the run game, that maybe they are some serious issues. Because I don't think right now that you face Georgia. Georgia just whipped you. You beat Oklahoma. But if you can't start fast and you can't generate a run game, good run game versus Vanderbilt, and Quinn doesn't look sharp versus Vanderbilt, you got some real tough defenses that you're much tougher defenses that you're going to face, like Arkansas and like A&M. Kentucky is a decent defense, and not saying Texas is going to lose those games or anything, but they can be a whole lot closer than they should be. And if they're close in the fourth quarter, anything can happen. And
yeah,
that's what you kind of want to avoid.
And keep in mind, Vanderbilt has only been down double digits once this season, and that's the game they lost. Or one of the games they lost.
They lost 2 games, yeah.
Yeah, the Missouri game, they were never down double digits, but the only one they were actually down double digits was Georgia State. And then they scored a bunch of points in the fourth quarter, but they still couldn't come back and win that game. But if you can get on that Sark run, that's a big piece of it, which is that offense. You go, if that offense can roll and get a couple points on the board, this is not a Vanderbilt team that's used to playing down.
Nope.
Because they just hang with everybody. And they just hang and they hang. And then when it comes down to being a fight in the fourth quarter, that's kind of their specialty. Is it's a fight. We'll go win that fight. Yep. And so if you're Texas, you have to come out and at some point put that Sark run on them and get that 14, 20-point lead, and then see if you can. Then it changes up everything they do, and they don't play as well.
Yep. That's if you want them to abandon their identity, and to do that, you got to score and separate, like you said, get up multiple scores, and defensively, you got to force them into passing situations because they don't want to be in a passing situation either.
Exactly.
You can do that. That formula is pretty simple, but they got a rock solid identity as a program right now, and how they win games and how they play football. And I'm not sure, honestly, their identity is more rock solid than Texas's identity offensively. It really is. Right now, it is. Like right now, they know exactly who they are offensively and how they want to win. Texas, we're not really sure. Texas has a ton of talent. The Texas is not really sure who they are offensively and what their identity is. Texas was a pass first, Quinn Ewers led offense, and are we still a pass first, Quinn Ewers led offense? Does anybody know? Right?
That's the assumption, right?
We think we are, but that was the offense earlier in the season, right? It was a pass first, Quinn Ewers led offense. I predicted it, and that's exactly the way it went. And against Georgia, or against Oklahoma and Georgia, that changed a little. Are we still a pass first, Quinn Ewers led offense? When some people are claiming he might not even be the best option at quarterback.
I know.
So I'm just saying, like, think about their identity offensively. They know exactly who they are. Their ball control, the slow pace of play. They convert on third and fourth down. No giveaways. All right. They're second in the country in turnovers. And they're a run first team. We run, baby. That's who we are. We run. We got the most exotic run game in the SEC. What is Texas' identity offensively?
It's no.
I'm saying, like, I know what it's supposed to be, but I'm saying at this point, Vanderbilt's got it locked down. They got it in. It's done. It is rock solid, man. It's etched in stone. It's who we are. We ain't changing. Texas they tried to flip the script the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because if your quarterback's not on, well, you got to find another way to win. They win that way. That's how they win. So I'm just saying, I'm a little bit envious of them right now watching them. They know how they want to play offensively. Texas, not really sure offensively with all this weaponry and all this talent, exactly what we want to be, like exactly how our offensive identity is supposed to look. I still think we're figuring that out, which is dangerous for the rest of college football when Texas does figure it out, but also makes you a little uneasy.
Yeah.
That you don't know who you're going to be offensively when your team goes out there.
No, I mean, I have, I think, a bit more confidence that this offense will figure it out, but I'm with you that there is, there's questions that you go, there isn't that, well, Quinn to this, even if nothing else works, Quinn to X receiver is going to, that's it. And that'll get you, that's 100 yards a game guaranteed and a touchdown. And then from there, we add pieces around it, but it should be 150 and two TDs, and we'll go from there. But there isn't really that this season. But I still, I think Texas. This will be the one where he can pull the nose up a little bit, but it'll be an interesting game to see if Quinn does come out and play a little bit better this week.
The only other guys on the injury report, Isaiah Bonds on here is questionable, and Trey Wisner's on there is probable too. I forgot to mention that. So the probable thing is good for Trey Wisner. Isaiah Bond questionable. That's interesting because he was definitely limited at the end of the Georgia game, and I think he may be limited in practice too what he can do. And if he's not 4.43 Isaiah Bond, and he's 4.5 Isaiah Bond, that ain't Isaiah Bond. That's that's a different Isaiah Bond. So that's something to consider when they're putting him out there. Maybe you do want Wingo out there instead of a 4.5 Bond. All right, we come back. We'll get into the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. We'll also have your music theme day of the week. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn.
Back here on the Rodcast on a Thursday morning. That means it's a new theme Thursday where I'll pick a theme and play you songs based on that theme all show long. Today's theme is basketball since the NBA season started back up this week. The Spurs and Mavs tip off tonight. The Rockets tipped off last night. So a little basketball music for you. Starting you off with Public Enemy and He Got Game to kick you off here on a new theme Thursday. Let's get to the Big Fat Poll today. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. And then we'll get this up on X at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
Big Fat Poll of the day today. Basically, one of the main things I've talked to everyone I've talked Texas football with this week is, going back and rewatching the game. you see that there's a bunch of things that went wrong, and it wasn't necessarily one group being downright awful, but a lot of people not playing their best. But the resounding report afterwards is you get that people are down on Quinn right now, and then that people now feel that we have maybe had the worst offensive line they've ever seen in their lives, which is crazy because they've been great all season long up until that game. That was the game that it looked really bad, but people are very down, and that's a question I get asked. How is Texas going to do against Vanderbilt? Well, it depends. Does the offensive line show up this week? Like, well, I feel they will. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be okay. So I want to see what you guys think on the poll there. Ask you, how many sacks will Texas allow against Vanderbilt? How many sacks do you think Vanderbilt gets against Texas? We know Texas has allowed 2 once in the season, and then of course 7 to Georgia, but they've gone 1-0 a bunch of times this season as well. So how many sacks will Texas allow against Vanderbilt? I believe they had 2 against Mississippi State was the most they'd allowed before Georgia. Everybody else was 1 or 0. To give you some numbers of what Vanderbilt has done in sacks so far this season, they did start out very good. 6 sacks versus Virginia Tech. They had 1 sack against Alcorn State, 1 against Georgia State, 3 against Missouri, 2 against Bama, 1 against Kentucky, and 2 against Ball State is what Vanderbilt has had. So not an elite rushing team, but they'll go after, and they're going to go after.
They've at least gotten 1. So
yeah, they've gotten 1 in every game.
It's hard to say 0, but this is a really good offensive line, and they're coming off their worst pass protection performance, arguably since Sark has been here. So they got just coach gave it to them all week long. I mean, so I wouldn't doubt they had their best performance of the season, just because they're coming off their worst, just because they had the toughest week of practice they probably had all season long, and they're uber focused because they were essentially embarrassed. And I'm sure they're ashamed of their performance. I've been there, by the way. The reason I can say that, because I've been ashamed of my performance on national TV before and bounced back with a vengeance the next week. So yeah, I'm gonna say 1. I just can't see them giving up multiple sacks after having a week like that. I just can't see it. That would be very disappointing if they weren't the most focused group on the field.
Yeah, and I don't see the game plan, at least early, but for most of it being much more based around trying to get Quinn in a rhythm and getting the ball out and not having him get stuck like he did against Georgia, having him be
the rainbow wheel. It's like the rainbow wheel sometimes. It's like, oh, the rainbow wheel. So, like, what's going on? What's going on?
He's loading.
It's like, damn it, what's going on? That's how I felt sometimes watching the rainbow wheel.
Yeah, and so I think that was. I'm on 1 as well, but we'll put 0, 1, 2, and then 3+. So you can say if you think this offensive line, because I think if you get 3+, then that starts to be a problem, because this is not a team that goes after the quarterback like that, who doesn't get those kind of sacks all the time.
Yeah.
So if I think it's 3+, then yes, we'll have to have another conversation on Monday. But I want to see if you guys now think rails are off, everyone's figured out Texas, and clearly worst team. The doom and gloom from some people I've talked to is catastrophic for losing to a team that is a multi-time national champion.
Hadn't lost 2 games since 2020.
And then you're like, did you not watch the others? Did you not watch the defense?
Did you not watch? Yeah, you're right.
Did you not watch him turn a guy who was considered one of the best quarterbacks in this draft? He played worse than Quinn did, and Quinn played really poorly.
He played really bad. Yeah, he might have had his worst game of his career. I mean, it's got to be. It's no way he's played worse than that as a starter.
Yeah, and so
he wouldn't be projected as a first-round pick.
No,
so, I'm with you. I don't know.
And so I think that
offense is that's how you know everybody's biased towards offense. That's how you know they are.
Yes.
Texas is dog-ish right now, but nobody's talking about how elite that defense is. Still the number 1 defense in the country. But Longhorn fans, they're not talking about that at all. Because you can go out there and just win games with that defense. You really can. And you can honestly stay. You're gonna be in every game just because of the defense. Yeah. And the defense was proven to be legit. Remember, we were all questioning. Let's think about it. Going into the game, the questions were: is the defense has not been tested? Yes. They've gone up against these vertically challenged offenses like Michigan and ULM and Oklahoma at the time. They have not been tested, and that defense is finally going to be tested with elite athletes and a real first-round caliber quarterback. And not only the defense passed the test, hell, man, the defense kept you in the whole, kept it from being an embarrassing game. Actually, kept you from getting just totally just avalanched right, by this boat race by this Georgia squad. So they passed the test with fine colors. I mean, you got an A+ from the defense, and everybody is still, all these Longhorn fans, they're doom and gloom because the offense looks bad. And because your quarterback Quinn's not playing well, which I totally understand, but let you know how biased everybody is.
Yeah,
It reminds me of that Super Bowl between the Rams and the Patriots, and everybody was like, "That was the worst Super Bowl I've ever seen," because they only scored one touchdown. I was like, "That was actually an amazing Super Bowl because it was just two great defenses.
It was.
The Patriots and the Rams. They were just trading haymakers. Nobody cared about that. It was a terrible Super
No,
Bowl
that
because
was
only
what
one
was that
touchdown was scored.
LSU Alabama back in several years
Yes,
ago.
that national
They
title
didn't
game.
even get past the 50-yard line.
Yeah, you're right. It was like 9 to. Oh, it was so crazy
Oh.
number. Yeah, it was wild. Now that was ugly football. I'm not gonna lie. That was ugly.
That was ugly football. No, but and this is the other part. We say that, and then we say the offensive line. They do everything great. That's expected. You have one
Sure.
bad game, and then everything is the O-line's fault.
It is.
Hey,
Yep.
did wide receivers
Right.
get separation? Doesn't matter. Should have protected. Because I mean, I remember watching the game at the game, sitting there going, "Okay, throw it, throw it," and then the sack happens. You're like, "That's not on the O-line." I get you love to have him, but I'm like, he's
step up in the pocket. Yeah, he's getting sacked at the back of the pocket. It's like, well, step up, step up. Yeah. They created for you. You got to step up into the pocket. No, when I went back and watched it, I came away thinking the same thing. I was like, yeah, Quinn played bad. It made his worst game as a starter here at Texas. But man, he got no help from his teammates at all. It just all around, it was disappointing performance. O-line and Quinn may have had their worst games since Sark has been here. But I mean, like I said, two of those turnovers. One of them was just a bad play by Quinn. But remember, we found out that the cornerback blitz, that wasn't on Quinn.
Nope.
We found out there was no Quinn. So now we were looking at, why did he hold on to the ball? Why did he just throw that slant? Well, now I know, because the progression was probably different because they had planned on that backside being blocked, and I don't know what the pass protection breakdown was, but they were supposed to block that cornerback blitz. So he would have had time to go through a deeper progression. So, hey, that wasn't on Quinn. And then the interception, I've said before, that is on Quinn. You got to make better decisions with football. Anytime you throw a pick as a quarterback, most of the time it's on you unless it's deflected off somebody's hands, or the receiver ran the wrong route. But Gunnar Helm could have really helped his quarterback out there if he had had a more aggressive angle and attacked the leverage of that cornerback, attack that back shoulder. If he'd attacked that back shoulder, that cornerback wouldn't have been able to come off so clean from that cornerback spot and intercept that Matthew Golden out route. He would have to go through Gunnar Helm or take a dirty angle and go around him. He might have knocked it down, might have got the tackle, or hell, Gunnar Helm might have naturally blocked him, and he might have caught the ball for an explosive play. But those are little things. So that was, to me, I bet Gunnar Helm got coached up on it. Like, hey man, you got to attack that corner. You can't just casually release up the field and allow the corner a free angle and a easy angle back down to the football when we're running that out route there. So I think it was all around for the team. There were breakdowns across the board. Yes. And
so
that's
I won't put it on them, but I want to see what you guys think. How many sacks will Texas allow against Vanderbilt?
I'm going 1.
I'm going 1 too. I'm on 1 too.
All right. Good stuff there. We come back. We'll get into some other news notes and nuggets. We'll talk Texans a little bit. They actually signed a linebacker. A former first-round linebacker? Do they expect this linebacker to make an impact? We'll also talk about their upcoming game with the Colts. Speaking of pass protection, they got some pass protection issues too. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis, that's when he plays jams that are related or referencing a new creative theme that he comes up with. And this one actually is not that creative. It's just something that he's very passionate about. He loves basketball. He's excited about the start of the NBA season. And there you go. That is the inspiration for this new theme Thursday. So it's all about basketball, and all the jams are talking about basketball. A lot of songs talking about basketball, though. A lot of most of them are just hip hop songs too.
Yeah, and there's some songs that reference basketball, but they're not really talking about it. Yeah, they're just kind of referencing it in the thing. They'll just drop in a line. So I'm trying to find the ones that are more basketball, fully basketball songs
that are all about that. Yeah. That
and
actually, that was the whole intent.
Yeah, and also don't say words I can't play on the
radio. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Good point. Yeah, there's so many basketball movies that it's relatively easy because they've had some songs on there, one or two at least, that are about basketball. You know what I mean? That are genuinely about it. And there's a ton, man, just a ton of basketball movies. I mean, you just come up. That's one thing too. Out of all the sports, baseball, of course, probably has the most. But man, basketball has a ton of basketball movies. Like just in terms of just like with basketball as a theme throughout it. In terms of sports movies, I feel like basketball lately has caught up with baseball. It seems like they stopped making baseball movies.
I feel like
they started making right. Am I tripping? Like lately, there are more basketball movies than baseball.
So I think
movies,
that this is a dumb reason for it, but I could believe it's the reason why there is. It's just cheaper to do a basketball movie.
I agree with you. That's a great point. No, that's a great point.
Stadiums
totally agree.
And all of that, you have to have giant areas. Like I remember they were trying to do that Marshawn Lynch biopic thing. And then they released
football is so expensive.
But they were trying to do it. They released like the footage, and then Marshawn had to get him to take it down because it was so bad. But it's the one where they were standing, so the shot couldn't get the stands because they couldn't afford to pay all the extras to be in the stands. So they were standing like at the hash mark instead of the sideline the coaches were, because if you shot it with them at the sideline, you'd have to see the stands behind it empty.
All the stands are empty stands.
Yeah, so they had to shoot it like so. They're on the field. Like the whole sideline is on the fields.
That's because that's why football is so tough, because football is just so expensive to shoot.
Yeah,
and think about how violent the scenes are. I mean, what's the most realistic football movie scenes you see? Even the most realistic don't look that realistic.
Yeah,
like, even like Any Given Sunday, it was like, well, it's kind of not that realistic. So it's just, I think you're right. I think it's just honestly, it's just about the how cost effective they are. It's just easy to make a basketball. All you really need is a hoop, and you can fill up a gym, and you can always make that gym look bigger.
Yeah,
put some, depending on how you can decorate it.
Yeah, it's easier to get all your shots without having anybody in the background. You can kind of piece it together a little bit easier.
Yeah. And baseball is still a little bit tougher, but it does seem like, you're right. I think you're right about that.
Because they were doing like that Chad Powers thing. They did it during a game. Like they were like, hey, we got to get this scene. So at halftime of a real game, this is the only way we can show a crowd full and make noise is if we film it during a regular game. And
they've done that with some like fight movies. Like Jake Gyllenhaal was recently in one. Yeah. Right. Yes, exactly right. Yeah, that was it. It was Roadhouse. Yeah, and they just did it like in an intermission of the actual fight. Yeah. That's probably the best way to try to do it. But then in a football movie, you need a lot of scenes.
You also got to be big enough budget to be able to come in and do that.
Yeah,
and allow it.
You would think. Well, you think they'd better just do it, with the graphics and stuff these days. They can't just do just.
How will you get that money to do that though too?
That's also right. That's not cost effective though.
You get
it costs you a ton of money to do the graphics.
You get a bunch of people with 6 fingers out in the crowd cheering for you.
People wouldn't notice, but no, you're right. That's why basketball movies. It seems to be they're frequently making more basketball movies these days than other sports.
It just to me it makes sense that it's like, oh no, we can just kind of do this. It's indoors too.
Especially like you're right about that. Especially like a white men can't jump type basketball where you don't actually have them playing in an arena. Yes, it's pickup game type stuff. That's even easier than anything. And you can't. I mean, that's no way to make a football movie about guys playing 7-on-7. That's not interesting. But a pickup basketball movie seems to still work out like in some ways.
I didn't watch any of that Aaron Hernandez. I wonder if they had any shots of that of him playing in games.
I did not. Damn it. I should have watched some of that
All
because
I
I saw
know-
some clips on Twitter that were terrible.
All I know is I saw the Gronk guy, and it's the only guy in
Yes.
any of these that was nailed. Dead on Gronk.
Oh, did you see Belichick, the guy that played Belichick?
Oh, yeah. No, it's awful.
He was so cheesy. Yeah, he was so cheesy, Belichick.
The guy
on
who
that
played
one. I want to
Robert
know what
Kraft,
Belichick
too.
thought of the guy that played Belichick. Oh, I didn't see the Robert Kraft character. How did he look? Did he look creepy?
No, he did not look anything like Robert Kraft either. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Yeah, I didn't even see what streaming app was that on?
It's on FX, right?
Yeah, so is that like Hulu,
Hulu or something? But it's on FX,
I
right?
think
That do these American sports dramas.
Yeah, the American story, like American crime story, American horror story. Is that one of
It's
those?
like American sports story or something like that because they did that. It's like clipped too. The Clippers one they did.
Oh yes, that's right, with Donald Sterling. I still have that one in my queue and have not watched it yet. That's the one with Lawrence Fishburne as Doc Rivers, correct? Yes. I haven't watched it yet. I meant to watch that one, but I don't have any time. And if I don't have time, do I really want to devote it to watching that?
No, you don't.
It got to be something else that's more worth my time than watching that Clipped. I think it's the name.
Yes, Clipped. You're watching a thing that you could sum up in 30 minutes, and it's like
pretty much. And they got like 7 episodes or 6. It's like, no, we don't need all that. It should have been just you're right, 2-3 parter, maybe something.
The tallest guy out there is 6'3". Come on, man.
That's also why it's hard to do basketball movies. It's hard to find that many people that are tall actors.
Oh yeah, no, they just have NBA players in basketball movies.
Yeah, that's the big thing about basketball. It's like, how are we gonna find a tall actor? Because actors generally, most humans generally, they just aren't that tall. And yeah, it's hard to do that, to find the tall guys that can actually act. Can't do it. That's why all basketball movies kind of weird. It's like, well, he looks like he's like 6'1" out there. And then a woman walks up to him, and then she's like right at his chin. It's like, well, how tall is this dude? Unless she's really tall. Who knows? That's what loving basketball. I remember watching that. I was like, man, Omar Epps? Really? How tall is Omar Epps? I don't know if he could be an elite basketball player.
No, when you see
right?
You see the clips, and it's like he's on the court, and he's like, he looks shorter than he did the rest of the movie. Like he's standing on a box the rest of the movie.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, there you go. That's why we love New Theme Thursdays. They always inspire some great conversation. So does the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. And Patrick always gets that posted for you on X at the Horn ATX. Patrick, what is the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day?
Big Fat Poll of the day. How many sacks will Texas allow against Vanderbilt? 0, 1, 2, or 3+ are your choices. We got a few votes in, and 0's leading the way, but pretty close between 0, 1, and 2 right now. All pretty close. And I will dispel on the text line already because I've seen it pop up a couple times. There is no netting up at Vanderbilt. That's a fake tweet.
Oh, that was a fake story. I didn't bring it up because I didn't see it.
No, I looked up enough that until you finally found somebody that was reputable being like, that's not true. They did not do it.
Yeah, I am a journalist in this area. I cover the team. Not true.
Yeah, basically, like, that's not a thing. Yeah.
It was basically to troll Texas for throwing stuff on the field, right?
It was trolling Vanderbilt for rushing the field, I believe.
Oh, really?
I believe maybe it was for both, but I believe that was part of it was they were like, this is because they rushed the field after the game and they can't afford another fine.
Okay.
Because
I thought they were trolling. I thought they were trolling Texas. All right.
They might have. I know that they also because they said they might leave it up for the Tennessee game as well.
Okay.
So I think they were more trolling them Vanderbilt fans for rushing the field, and they were like saying Vanderbilt's going to beat Texas, and then Vanderbilt's going to beat Tennessee, so they have to be prepared for when they win these games.
All right, there you go. Hey, man, I thought it was coming from like the Vandy side of things, but that is it. It is.
I don't know. I think it's all just a parody. It's all.
Okay.
From what I've read from
it was the reason I didn't bring it up because I didn't think I was like that doesn't sound right. I've been to business and I was like that sounds weird. No, I don't know if they'd actually do that. But I'm glad you cleared it up because I did see that report too earlier. I think I saw it yesterday actually. All right, let's get to the Horn headlines here, and then we'll come back and dive into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. I want to talk about the Texans a little bit. We'll start diving into that Cowboys 49ers matchup. There's an update, at least on status of some of the stars on both sides. We'll get into that a little bit too. And of course, we continue talking Texas Vanderbilt. But first, let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA last night, the Rockets lost their season opener to the Hornets after Charlotte overcame an 18-point deficit late in the first half. Alperen Sengun had 25 points and 18 rebounds, and Jalen Green added 28 more points, but a near triple-double performance from LaMelo Ball proved too much. Tonight, the Spurs and Mavs begin their seasons against each other at 6:30 on TNT. This will mark the regular season debut of Chris Paul as a Spur and Klay Thompson as a Maverick, with Devin Vassell out for the game, recovering from an offseason surgery on his foot. And in the NFL, the 5-1 Vikings look to get back on the winning track against the Rams on Thursday Night Football. Amid trade rumors, Cooper Kupp is expected to make his return to the field tonight, which could be a big boost for the Rams, with Puka Nacua still listed as questionable and Jordan Whittington listed as out for the game. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines there. Yeah, I did see that Cooper Kupp trade rumor, and Diana Rossini, actually, who's very respectable, she actually put out there that before DeAndre Hopkins was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, that they were looking to trade for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
She claims that the deal didn't happen because Kansas City didn't want to give up a high draft pick and needed a trade partner willing to eat a large chunk of the player's salary. The Chiefs later traded 5th-round pick, not a high draft pick, for DeAndre Hopkins. So they went after Cooper Kupp, or at least they inquired about him, but apparently the price was a little too high for Cooper Kupp. And I believe, I wonder what they're asking for Cooper Kupp. I wonder if they're asking for more than like a 3rd-round pick for Cooper Kupp. I'm not sure exactly what his overall value is right now, but that's something. So the Kansas City was looking to upgrade anyway. So it is the Texans actually made a move, which was a necessary one, because I thought because of they had some injuries at linebacker. Christian Harris been doing the injury all season long. Azeez Al-Shaair actually now he wasn't even available at practice earlier this week. He got injured in their last game as well, and the other injury was Henry Teotio, but he practiced yesterday. He practiced yesterday. So no real update on whether he's going to play, but he did practice. I wasn't sure he was limited, but he was the only linebacker among those 3 that was available. And they signed Devin White, who is a former 1st-round pick, actually, with Tampa. Played with Tampa for like 4 years. Ended up signing a 1-year deal with Philly last season. This season. Signed a 1-year, $4 million deal with Philly this season. And apparently just got beat out by Nakobe Dean. Just a young player, just played better. And then he wasn't activated. They decided to release him. Texans need some depth at linebacker, so they signed Devin White. And apparently, he could have a chance to make an impact. Now, he's not going to be a starter or anything. They just need some bodies in that linebacker room until they can get healthy. Azeez Al-Shaair and Christian Harris, those guys can get healthy. But it may be another reclamation project for the Texans too. I mean, he's got really high upside as a player. I mean, he's a former 1st-round pick, and hell, he at one point was made a Pro Bowl. So,
and he's only 26.
Yeah. Well, it's relatively young. Yeah. 83 tackles in 2023. Started 13 games in 2023. 2 years ago, I mean, last year was a starter in the league. 2.5 sacks. So I'm not sure what's going on with him, but I will say that DeMeco Ryans got a pretty good track record of getting the most out of linebackers, and really maximizing talent at linebacker, being the position that he played. So like I said, I'm not going to bank on him being a starter, but you may need him to start a game. Because right now you are pretty banged up at linebacker, and you have been all season long. So I like the move. I like the Texans just looking at a potential weakness and a glaring issue because of whether it's injury or whether it just be because of productivity. They decided to at least make a move to upgrade the linebacker position a little bit. So good move for the Texans, and I think ultimately it could be one of those bargains for the Texans too if it works out. It turns out if he actually can contribute this year, who knows, next year he could be a guy you also bring in as a depth piece for you that can provide depth in that linebacker room. And with that kind of upside, guy who's a former 1st-round pick, I think that'd be pretty, that'd be good value be really good value for the Texans. Jake Hansen, actually, which I mean, speaking of D'Amico Ryans and how he can maximize linebackers, he had a really good Week 7 performance in lieu of all the injuries that they have at linebacker. So, third-year starter Christian Harris, he's been on injured reserve. He's got the calf injury, and they honestly that's injury is so mysterious. I don't know if they are sure when he's going to be cleared and how that's going to work out. Week 6, just when you saw Al Shair and Henry Tioto, he had a concussion. That's why he's back. But Al Shair had a knee injury. So he still hasn't been cleared to practice yet. And that's why another big reason why they decided to bring in Devin White. They also, like I said, Jake Hansen has been playing a lot because of the injuries. And they got Neville Hewitt is another linebacker for the Texans as well. So Texans make a little bit of move. Cowboys still haven't made a move, but we'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys coming up a little bit later on. Next segment, Raj rant, and I want to get into this DeAndre Hopkins signing by the Chiefs and how they're going to use DeAndre Hopkins. Could be scary if DeAndre Hopkins actually is healthy. If you look at the way he finished last season with the Titans, they figured out a really interesting way to weaponize DeAndre Hopkins. I think the Titans may do the same. We'll talk a little bit about that and how he could improve or at least help to change the really change the fortune of Patrick Mahomes. Now, Patrick Mahomes is 6-0, but he's 6-0 off to the worst start statistically for him as a quarterback in his career. More interceptions than touchdowns. Could this be a move that really changes the trajectory of his season? We'll talk about that too. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime on Horn. Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I want to talk about this DeAndre Hopkins trade to the Chiefs. I mean, yesterday we got into it a little bit, but it has a chance to be really, really impactful. And of course, the Chiefs are the only last undefeated team left, and trying to three-peat, which is really tough to do because no team's ever done it in the history of the NFL. So they're trying to make history, and you can tell it is for the Chiefs. This is the most flawed iteration, right, of their championship teams, if they end up winning the championship.
At least offensively.
Offensively, yes, exactly. Because Patrick Mahomes is the key to it, and he's having his worst start to the season.
I would say their defense is still really good.
Yes, no, their defense is legit, but it's the same thing with the Longhorns, right? Everybody thinks the Longhorns are dog-ish. It ain't because they're the number one defense in the country. It's because Quinn Ewers ain't playing well.
I know. I was
right?
just trying to show
same thing
respect.
about no, I'm good. But same thing about Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what people are looking at right now, and it makes sense, right? He's throwing more interceptions than touchdowns this season. His passer rating is falling from 105 to 92 to 82 since 2022. That's a hell of a steep decline. His passing EPA has dropped from plus 181.9 to plus 16.7 to plus 8.4 in the same time span. He has thrown an interception in every game this season and hasn't thrown a touchdown pass since week 4 against the Chargers. And his last multi-touchdown game was week 3 against the Falcons. It just doesn't look like the Mahomes of old. Now, he's still able to win games, and he's more clutch than he's ever been, period. But you just haven't really seen the spectacular, extraordinary plays that he's able to make, usually with his arm, extending plays down the field, but still best quarterback in the league. There ain't no doubt about that. And Xavier Worthy hasn't been, like I said, I've talked about how they're trying to put him into more featured wide receiver one opportunities. They're trying to feature him more, and they're trying to really scheme him open. And with first read target share, he's actually led the team in first read target share the last couple of games for them. They're not using him just as a go route guy anymore. Now they got him running a lot more sophisticated routes from the route tree. And I think that also is something that they're trying to make sure that down the line, later on this season, that maybe that's when he's ready to thrive in this system. And if they put him in that, and they may not have a choice right now, put him in that wide receiver one role, that maybe they'll start to see some of the benefits, right, of that chemistry between he and Patrick Mahomes start to get better, even though last week that was not the case. As a matter of fact, Xavier Worthy had 120 yards and uncatch. He had 120 yards of uncatchable air yards on targets to him, which was the most in the NFL. So they just couldn't get on the same page. He targeted him deep. He was targeting him down the field. Couldn't figure it out. I think it'll happen, but now it's not working. Right now, Xavier Worthy leads the team among healthy wide receivers with 198 receiving yards, but that's tied for 65th in the NFL. Justin Watson has 95. McCole Hardman has 50. That's about it for the Chiefs. So they got to figure out some way to boost the passing game, and DeAndre Hopkins is a great way for them to boost the passing game. And this is why, because they can use him. Like I said, he can be your number one guy. If you need to be a number one guy, he can be that. I mean, he was 1,000-yard receiver just a couple of years ago. So if they need him to be, the number one dude, I do believe he can do that, no problem. But if Xavier Worthy ends up having a breakout performance, remember Rashee Rice at the end of last season? That's what happened to him as a rookie. It was late last season where he really started to flourish, really started to thrive in that system, and became a true weapon on the outside. Maybe that happens with Xavier Worthy, but if it does, then that's great. Then I think DeAndre Hopkins can be that complementary element in the passing game. But if Xavier Worthy's not ready for that role yet, DeAndre Hopkins can definitely be that guy. I mean, he can be your true. He was just 1,000-yard receiver a couple of years ago for Tennessee. Actually, just last year for Tennessee, he was a 1,000-yard receiver. If they need him to be that dude, I think he can. Now, health-wise, he may need to get healthier. I think he had a knee injury or something he was dealing with. But I love the different roles he can play. And Patrick Mahomes needs help specifically in the red zone right now. His red zone, in the red zone right now, he is he's got 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a passer rating of 74 in the red zone, and a passing EPA of negative 14.6. That's the fifth worst in the NFL. Lamar Jackson actually leads the NFL in red zone touchdown passes, which with 13 red zone touchdown passes, and Patrick Mahomes only has 3. So when they get in the red zone, they need a weapon, and man, that's where DeAndre Hopkins really thrives because he doesn't need separation. As I've talked about, he doesn't need separation to really make plays. And you go look at him in the red zone. Since 2017. He's got 108 targets. That's the 8th most in the red zone. 54 catches. That's the 18th most in the red zone. 390 receiving yards. 12th most in the red zone in that time span. 34 touchdowns. That is the 9th most in the red zone in that time span. The Chiefs have posted their worst red zone touchdown percentage of the Mahomes era this season. 47.8. He's a guy that can help you in that area. There's no doubt. Immediately almost can help you in that area. Also, in the slot, they moved him around at Tennessee actually in 2023. They moved him around and put him in the slot quite a bit. I think they were just trying to scheme him open because he was their number one guy, and teams would double him, roll coverage his way, and they wanted to try to hide him. All right, figure out a way to engineer matchup advantages. He excelled in the slot. He was great. He averaged 2.95 yards per route run out of the slot last year. That was 5th best in the NFL. And he's just really good at being able to manipulate space, even when they were trying to bracket him in the slot. This season, of course, because of, I think some injuries, he injured himself in training camp. I think it was an MCL injury. But from weeks 11 through 18 last season, like I said, he dealt with an injury early on. But late in the season, I think he got healthy. That's the hope, I think, right now for the Kansas City Chiefs. Weeks 11 through 18, he was 3rd in ASS, average separation score. All right, tied for 12th in win rate, and in yards per route run, I think he was 32nd in yards per route run. And during that same stretch, he ran everything: corner routes, 22% of his routes were corner routes. He ran post routes, 34%, go routes at 20%, crosser win rate, I should say. His crosser win rate was 22%. It was very diverse route tree that he was running. And I think, like I said, that was actually some of the most, I think that was actually, he was at his best in a lot of those situations. And I'm not sure this year what happened with the Titans. Maybe it's just quarterback play offensively. Maybe they're just struggling, haven't watched much of them. But with the Chiefs, I mean, I think you looking at it, he's going to be able to thrive no matter what role they put him in. Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1, put him in the slot. They can put him on the outside. How about this? The Chiefs, Hopkins has the 6th most targets when lined up outside on the line of scrimmage since 2018. So he can line up outside. They used him in the slot last year a lot. That was new because he had usually been a guy that would line up outside as your X. The Chiefs have the fewest targets to wide receivers lined up on the outside at 526 since 2018. So they don't throw it a lot to the receivers outside, maybe because they just haven't had those guys. And they like putting guys in the slot too. That's one of the traits, conceptual signatures of this Kansas City offense. And you start looking at it, in contrast, Hopkins has had 180 targets out wide off the line of scrimmage, meaning he's like the flanker out there. 174 from the slot. The Chiefs, 14th most targets to off-ball wide receivers, 5th most targets to wide receivers in the slot. So they like guys they can move around. If you're off the ball, it means you can put you in motion. And when you're in the slot, also usually, unless they got you on the line of scrimmage, usually slot guys, they can put them in motion. And that's what Andy Reid's big on, being able to move those guys around, manipulate the matchups, and manipulate engineer different matchup advantages. And you can do that with DeAndre Hopkins too. Put him on a smaller corner. If you like the matchup inside with the nickel, you can put him there. If you like the matchup on the outside of the corner, you can put him there. If they're bracketing him inside, put him outside. You can actually find, and because of the versatility and variety now of DeAndre Hopkins, you can actually go find the weakness that you want to exploit with him. That's one of the beautiful things about Hop, that I think the reason he's going to thrive in that Kansas City. The other reason he's going to thrive is because it's the best damn quarterback he's ever played with. I mean, one thing about Hop that he's going to appreciate. Number one, he gets to play for a championship, something that he just hadn't had a chance to do. But also the fact that he gets to play, I mean, with a good quarterback for a change. I used to always call DeAndre Hopkins Spanks when he was playing with the Texans because he could take a Matt Schaub or he can take, a misshapen, deformed, unattractive quarterback, and he could make him look real good. Make him look real good. And that's that's what he did for years. And he finally got a chance to play with a real quarterback when he went to Arizona with Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray's legit, a true franchise quarterback. But the rest of the quarterbacks he played with, Deshaun Watson was a franchise quarterback, used to be anyway. But he really only played with, in my opinion, 2 true franchise quarterbacks. And that was the last couple of years with the Texans, and then his last, obviously, that time he spent with Arizona. And that didn't all go well either. I mean, you go look at how many passes he's caught, touchdown passes he's caught from 13 different quarterbacks in his career. He's caught touchdowns from 25 from Deshaun Watson. He wasn't even with him that long. That's how bad the quarterbacks were he was playing with. He got 17 from Kyler Murray, 7 from Will Levis, 7 from TJ Yates, 6 from Ryan Fitzpatrick. He caught 4 from Brock Osweiler, 2 from Ryan Mallett. Tom Savage is on this list. Brandon Whedon, Case Keenum, Ryan Tannehill. Matt Schaub is on this list. I mean, this dude's caught touchdown passes from 13 different quarterbacks, and now he's going to catch touchdown passes from the best quarterback in the league. He's never been able to, really say that he's catching passes from, an elite quarterback in the league. I guess Kyler Murray, maybe he was in that conversation. Deshaun was for a while too. But now, man, this guy's the best. And he's got the best play designer. He's got the best play caller in Andy Reid to figure out how to scheme him open. If DeAndre Hopkins is healthy enough, man, that's going to be a hell of an addition to that wide receiving core and to that passing game. And they need it. They need it badly, man. They really do. I haven't seen the offense look this bad, and I assumed when they drafted Xavier Worthy that he would have more of an impact, but I thought that would be with a Rashee Rice, with Isaiah Pacheco. Just the injuries have decimated their vision of what they wanted to be offensively. So now they just survive offensively. That's what they're doing. They're just surviving, and they're just surviving, and they know how to be clutch in the fourth quarter. That's really. I'll give you a stat about Patrick Mahomes. You go look at his interceptions, because like I said, he's got 8 interceptions, and for Patrick Mahomes, more interceptions than touchdowns. All right, that's highly uncharacteristic of him. He leads the NFL with 8 giveaways in the first 3 quarters of games this season. He does not have any giveaways in the fourth quarter. None. That's Patrick Mahomes in a nutshell. He transforms in the fourth quarter and becomes whatever they need him to be. Remember I told you sometimes he ends up being a dual threat quarterback? He's a dual threat quarterback that's almost like masquerading as a pocket passer. And he only becomes a dual threat quarterback when they absolutely need him to go make a great play. If they don't need him to be that guy, man, Patrick Mahomes, he's going to stay in the pocket, and you would think that he's just a statuesque pocket passing quarterback, but he ain't. And he hadn't been this season as much. He's been getting out, making a lot of plays with his legs. Here's another Mahomes stat that I found just doing some research. How about this? If you go look at it, he's been uber effective as a scrambler this year. Remember I told you guys, scrambling is this scramble. And we'll talk about this with Diego Pavia a lot because he loves to scramble. Is the most effective play in football. All right, on average, quarterbacks get about 8.5 yards per pop just off the scramble alone. It's when the play ultimately breaks down, unless you're going to put a spy on the quarterback, which is really tough to do because who's got those kind of numbers when you're trying to defend so many offensive cheat codes and concepts, unless you're going to put a spy on them. That's got to be in a predictable pass situation. It's almost impossible not to give up a good 5-6 easy yards, even to quarterbacks with functional mobility, let alone true dual threat athletic quarterbacks. And Patrick Mahomes, like I said, he's a dual threat quarterback. He just don't want y'all to know it. He doesn't want anybody to know it, but I ain't fooled. How about this one? Patrick Mahomes has an 87% success rate, damn near 88. I should round up. 88% success rate on scrambles this year. Success rate is when you get 50% of the yards needed for a first down on first. You get at least 70% of the yards needed to get a first down on second, and at least 100% of the yards needed on third and fourth down. All right, because those are your money downs. And based on that formula, he has an 88% success rate on scrambles this year. And it comes exactly when they need him. He's got on early downs so far this season, first and second down, he's got 7 scrambles. But on late downs, third, fourth down, he's got 8. And his first down rate on scrambles on late downs is 75%. He's getting the first down 75% of the time he scrambles on late downs. On early downs, that number I think drops to around 42%. But you get my point. He is lethal on the scrambles, and more because their passing game is not a pass. It doesn't really threaten defense anymore, and it's easier to defend. Let's just be honest. Without Rashee Rice and, without some of the weapons they've had in the past, it's an easier passing game to defend, especially last year, one of the worst wide receiving cores in the league. So he's been having to use his legs more, but he only uses them on critical downs. Most of the time in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line, and in the playoffs when the games are most important. The biggest games in the biggest moments, only time he's going to run. And like I said, works out really well for him. Works out extremely well. Like I said, 75% of the time, his late down runs end up being a first down. And now you got to watch the scramble drill. See, not only is he the best quarterback in the league, but he's better at the scramble drill than probably any other quarterback because he can throw from any angle on the field. And I thought Xavier Worthy and he would be able to take advantage of this, and they still could. They just don't have the chemistry and continuity just yet. But man, DeAndre Hopkins, with him one-on-one down the field and his catch radius and his ability to go up and turn a 50-50 ball into a 70-30 ball or 80-20 ball, and his ability to make these extraordinary, magnificent catches where he's using his body control and he's able to box out defenders, that could come in handy with Patrick Mahomes, maybe under duress, scrambling outside the pocket and throwing some of those jump balls up to DeAndre Hopkins. That is something to watch too. I thought it would be with Xavier Worthy, but it's a different type of scramble drill because you just want to hit him on the run, and you just want to throw it as far as you can, where only either he's going to run under it or you're going to overthrow him. And so it's a different type of scramble drill. I think DeAndre Hopkins, that would be an easier scramble drill because you just need to find him in a one-on-one and throw it anywhere in his vicinity. And you ain't got to throw it. You ain't got to throw him open like you would Xavier Worthy. You got to throw it to him. You know what I mean? And I think that's how he translates, or at least his skills can translate to that offense.
And with D-Hop, you can put it on the sideline. You can make one of those throws where it's like it's on the sideline that D-Hop catches this or it goes out of bounds.
Yep.
And I don't really have to worry about it too much because I can put it on the sideline. And if he can toe tap and get up and get the ball, then I can get a completion 25, 30 yards downfield. But I can put it, again, in a place where I'm not worried about throwing an interception because I'm putting it on the sideline. Because I'm already running towards the sideline.
Yeah, you're right about that. Hey, I remember those. I can see him in my head right now, too. Him like stretched out, about 2 feet out of bounds where his body is. He's still in bounds. Yeah, he does that a lot too. Oh, if he's healthy, this is scary for the rest of the league. They were scary anyway, but then they're scary because of the defense, as Patrick mentioned. That we don't talk enough about it, and I've talked about Spags being the best DC in football, and he is. But that's why they win these close games too, because no matter how bad the offense is playing, you don't pull away from Kansas City. You don't pull away from Kansas City. You don't. Nobody really does. And honestly, that would be the same thing for Texas. No matter if you're a Longhorn fan, the comfort is no matter how inept the offense becomes, and I don't think they will be, but no matter how inconsistent the offense is, your defense is going to keep you in every game this year. You won't be out of a game. There won't be an offense out there that can expose your defense to that extent. I don't know if there is an offense in the country that can expose your defense like that, because you are the number 1 defense in the country. So I think that's the comforting thing. Even for Kansas City fans, they know they have faith in that defense. Oh, they'll be in every game. And if you're in every game in the fourth quarter, Nobody's better in the fourth quarter than Patrick Mahomes. I just gave them nobody's better in the fourth quarter, and nobody's better in the clutch than Patrick Mahomes. And the defense will always make sure you're in that situation, and then you just give the keys to Patrick Mahomes, and then you're done. So that's the formula now, and damn it, it works. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into the what the facts, what the stats. Just gave you some of those, but I'll give you some more. What the facts, what the stats on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for what the facts, what the stats here. How about this one? It says here, Mozzie Smith comes from our friends at Blogging the Boys. Mozzie Smith has not recorded a single pressure on any of his 80 pass rushes this season. He's the only D tackle with zero, that's right, goose egg, zero pressures on at least 50 rushes. There are just 16 D tackles to not record a pressure through week 7 with at least 50 pass rushes since 2018. It's not good. It's not good at all. I don't like it. Don't like it one little bit. How about this one? This comes from Westcott Ebert. Shout out to him. He does a great job covering Texas football. He says, by Pro Football Focus tracking, the Texas wide receivers have 3 drops this year, 2 by Isaiah Bond, and the dropped would-be touchdown by Jonte Cook. Jaden Blue has 5 drops by himself. Trey Wisner has 2, including that crucial one versus Georgia that could have, if it wasn't a touchdown, it was definitely going to get you inside the 5. or
How
something
many-
close to the goal line.
How many drops on Jalen Blue do you think are on that little wheel?
Oh my God, 3,
At least,
right? Easily.
Every time he runs that, you're like, he's wide open and can't catch it.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. Yep. Or the quarterback miss. They just don't. They just
Yeah.
can't get on the same page that will. Right. He's open too. They just can't get on the same page with it. But I will admit this though: the running backs are not as sure. They're not sure-handed and not sure blockers like they have been in years past.
No, I mean,
Not in terms of the pass protection, like the pass protection has been an issue in terms of the running backs in the pass protection. And yeah, I mean, Jaden Blue had 2 fumbles earlier this year, in addition to 5 drops. And then Trey Wisner with the drops, and neither one of them have been especially impressive in pass protection, really either.
no, I think, I mean, they're both supposed to be more boutique backs that are used, for 10, 15, 20% of snaps of the game, and used in sparingly. And so I think they were supposed to be used in certain situations. And then all of a sudden that got ramped up really quick, and the overload on them, that is neither one. There's a reason why they weren't the lead back, is they had certain deficiencies. They're not bad, but they're just not, they're not excelling at certain areas where you really want a guy to be an all-around back.
Yep. I'll agree with you on that. No, like I said, it's just I think CJ Baxter at this point, you are officially missing CJ Baxter.
Oh,
I mean, you were missing him earlier, but now I think it's becoming glaring that you're missing his presence and what he could have provided. But hey, man, these guys, I like the running backs Texas has, but there's no doubt they're not as sure-handed and they're not as capable, competent blockers.
Again, we're crying from a yacht. So.
Amen to that, brother. Yes, it's a lot of that going on right now on the 40 acres. Okay?
There is.
A lot of Longhorns, tears from that yacht, man.
What's
best defense in the country,
our second
top
and,
5 team.
Our second and third string running backs would only be starting on 75% of the teams in the country.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. Trust me, I hear it all the time. And honestly, I look in the mirror sometime and it's me.
Yeah,
it's me crying from the yacht. So I get it. All right, how about this one? Oh man, I had a really cool stat and I just lost. Okay, here we go. How about this one? There are 661 NCAA football programs in this country. There are 25 that have not scored more than 21 points in a game. There's 1 FCS school, 5 Division II schools, 18 Division III schools, all right, and 1 FBS school. You want to know who that? You want any guess who that FBS school is?
I do not know.
There are 25 of these 661 NCAA football programs in this country that have not scored more than 21 points in a game. And there's only 1 FBS, and that 1 FBS school is Florida freaking State.
Wow. Man, they just, I don't know if there's ever been a bigger turn of you got to them screwed out of the playoffs. And from that moment on, it has just been terrible.
Man, it really has been horrible.
Like when they thought at that point, like, well, at least this is the worst thing that's going to happen to us in the next year.
Wrong.
And then straight downhill after that.
Yeah, no, it is. It's mind blowing how bad it's been for Florida State fans since then. Here's another one. This is not just about Florida State. The NFL team gets a shot here. It says, well, and this is from Pro Football Network. So they took that tweet that I just read you, and then they quote tweeted it with this one. There are 693 NCAA and NFL football programs in the country. There are 26 that have not scored more than 21 points in a game. 1 FCS school, 5 Division II schools, 18 Division III schools, 1 FBS school, and 1 NFL team. You know, guess who the NFL team is?
Is it the Patriots?
The Browns.
The Browns. Oh, man.
That came from Pro Football Network. I love that it's a random shot at the Browns.
Oh man! By the
That was
way,
good.
now that Winston's a starting quarterback, are we just is he who said that every single day now? So we're just gonna play.
Yeah. Oh man, his pregame speeches and anything. He's might need to mic him up every game. I need Jameis Winston's unintentional comedy. It brings joy to my heart.
Oh,
It brings me so
his
much
whole
joy.
speech about the guy about the
Oh,
fans booing and
oh
him
man,
turning into a pastor up there.
it's great. Oh man, I love me some
A
Jameis
man
Winston.
works so hard, and you're taking just like, come on, Jameis, come on.
I don't know if Jameis is doing it. I don't know. I don't think he's doing it on purpose either. I think he's just
No.
unintentionally really funny, and he doesn't realize it all the time either. But I can't wait to hear his pregame speech for his first start. That's gonna be.
No,
It's gonna
that's
be great.
like Keon Coleman. I know he just did a new Booking.com commercial where they're just
Oh,
playing
he's
up.
funny too. He is.
They were playing
He's
his up.
unintentionally
Yeah.
funny. Yep, he's one of those dudes. Yeah, but man, Jameis. Oh man, remember the Mike Evans one about Galveston, the water,
The one.
people around water. We might have to just bring back famous Jameis quotes. Oh, that was that was great, and I just love the pregame speech about eating the W. He puts the W. He's like, "You gotta eat that." He's eating these.
He's eating the W.
It's just so good. I mean, it's too good. It's just gold. It's gold. I tell you, gold. All right, we come back. We may hell. I may try to find me some Jameis stuff and send it
You know
to
who
Patrick.
gets to play this week?
Who?
The Ravens.
Oh, that. Oh, man, that could get ugly. That could get real ugly real fast. Yeah, but honestly, the Browns could play inspired. Honestly, I wouldn't doubt it. They without Deshaun in
that's
there.
a wrong team to play inspired against.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah, but yeah, yeah for the Browns. I don't know what they're playing for though. I mean, they're out of it already. So, and with pride, they
Yeah,
might play for some pride. Yeah, maybe.
gotta eat
And
them
maybe Jameis
W's.
can get them pumped up. Jameis might have a really good pregame speech and get them ready to go against the Ravens. They got nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Like, hey, and in that division, it's division foes play each other tougher. Even though they're much better. Like the Texans are better than the Colts. And what was the last game they played? Was it 29-27? It's like a 2-point win or something.
Yeah.
Some of the division games usually end up a little bit tougher, but we'll still see. We'll see. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into more NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Cowboys. So there's a salacious story out there about the Dallas Cowboys and their stadium tours. We'll get into that a little bit. Also, we'll get you an update on some injuries having to do with the Cowboys' next matchup with the 49ers on both sides of that matchup. We'll also go behind the burnt orange curtain. We're talking Texas versus Vanderbilt. You got the latest availability report. We'll go over that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast, and that's when my co-host, the Idealionaire Patrick Davis, plays jams that are related to or reference whatever the creative theme is for that Thursday, and it's usually something that inspires Patrick. And this time he's inspired by a passion of his, the start of the NBA season. He's really excited about it. So the new theme is a basketball theme, and all these songs that we're playing today on a new theme Thursday are basketball related songs. Appreciate that. This is a theme from an NBA on, right? The NBA on
it's
NBC.
Round Ball Rock by John Tesh.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Which,
it is good.
If you've never watched the live version of this, John Tesh
I've
playing
seen,
this live,
yeah,
it is hilarious. Unintentionally hilarious. Him playing the fake dribbling to the kick drum.
Yeah.
And then just getting amped up. Like he's going, the crowd's going nuts. It's so much fun to watch. Just like, what is going on?
It is a great theme song, though. It is really good. It is fantastic. It's just nostalgia. Everybody's so thinking, they're taken back. You're transported when you hear that theme song.
I think it's coming back next year, though.
Oh, they're making it. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Because NBA on NBC is coming back next year.
Nice. That's right. Okay. And we do know they're going to use the original theme.
I know that they've discussed using it. They've talked about using it. I don't know
why
you
wouldn't they use it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the argument against using it?
What are you going to put on there that's going to be better?
No. Whatever you do is going to be way worse. And people are going to criticize it because they're going to compare it to the old theme song and just use the old theme song. It's okay. Yeah. And then people will be like, oh, it's back.
It's back.
It's back.
I mean, you know that. That's one of those ones back when there was like more pre-internet and TV. That was, you knew when you heard that, you were like,
it was time.
Oh, basketball's on. Let's go.
Yeah. You would train like Pavlov's dog. Yeah. You knew. Like, NBA's
on. You put it on the TV and you'd be like, all right, game's coming on like 20 minutes and just be commercials or whatever news was on before it or whatever else. And then you hear that and you're like,
gotta get to my seat. Time for the game. Oh, man, such a great theme song. Really is. Appreciate Patrick hooking us up with a new theme Thursday. And also, he hooks us up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is usually a great conversation starter as well. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Big fat poll of the day today. How many sacks will Texas allow against Vanderbilt? We gave you 4 options: 0, 1, 2, and 3+ right now. 0 still in the lead, tied with 1 at 32% of the vote. 0 and 1. And then you also have 2 with 24% and 3+ at 13%.
Yeah, if they allow 3 sacks, then we got some major issues, right?
Because it's somebody's messing up.
Yeah, I mean, you get 10 sacks in the last 2 games. That would be a problem, especially coming off arguably the worst pass protection performance that offensive line has had since Sark and Kyle Flood has been here. Yeah, I'll go 1 just because I'll give Vanderbilt credit. They're a top 25 team. They're ranked.
Yeah.
They don't really offer much on. We'll get to it. Actually, 2 of their best defensive players, 2 of their defensive starters who've been out the last 2 weeks, they're expected to return for this game versus Texas. And they got a lot of guys on that injury report that we'll get to. But yeah, I'm gonna give them credit to say they'll at least get 1 sack versus Texas. Whether it be a broken play or whether they just win on 1-on-1, or if they started using some of the same strategies that we saw Georgia use. A lot of the stemming on the defensive line, a lot of the the pre-snap disguise and the movement with the different pressure packages. They may decide to do some of that against Texas and make it. They may get home once. I don't think they'll get home more than once, though, in my opinion. Because I also think Sark's going to try to run the ball. I think Sark wants to run the ball. 1.1 yards per carry left a really sour taste in his mouth. I think the 2 goals for the Texas offense are simple. Get Quinn in the groove and Quinn in the rhythm, and then let's get the run game going. The run game needs some confidence. The run game needs a slump buster. And Vandy, even though you're a top 25 team, Vandy and Quinn need slump busters right now. They're kind of need some slump busters. And Vandy, I said, Vandy's defense is okay. It's not a great defense. They can be had defensively. And I think for Texas, if you struggle versus Vanderbilt, then maybe some of the issues are a lot more serious than just, oh man, we had a bad game versus Georgia, and Georgia is an elite team. You have some of those same issues versus Vandy, then maybe it's time to be concerned. I'm not going to hit the panic button, but I would bring a panic button to the show. Not gonna hit it, but I will admit maybe we need to have one available. If they have a bad, if they can't run the ball versus Vandy, and that Quinn, either or, if they can't run the ball or Quinn has a bad game, I will have a panic button here on site just in case we need it, because then I will admit, like, yeah, something's off. So, and Quinn, I think, okay, you can choose one. All right, which one would you rather have? The run game find its way and its groove versus Vandy, or Quinn get his groove back versus Vandy?
Oh, it's Quinn, right?
Yeah, it's not even close.
It's not even close. Like,
it's not even close.
Because the run game finding its groove, we've seen it, and
close.
it's like that's a game-to-game thing anyway. Even if you say, well, they found their groove, you go, was it Trey? Was it Jaden Blue? Who got the groove? What, it's more about schemes and who they can put in the right situations to win. Whereas Quinn, if he's off again, you start to wonder how serious is the mental hang-up right now that he's playing so much worse than he was playing early in the season.
Yeah, it's not even close. So, and I wonder if Sark sees it the same way. He's like, no, Quinn, I got to get Quinn going. I got to get him confident, and I need to get him in a rhythm early in the game, and then let the run game, it'll come. Like you get,
because as bad as the run game was, Trey Wisner wasn't horrific. He was 3.5 yards per carry, so he wasn't horrific in that game.
Jaden Blue had no rushes.
And Trey Wisner was 3.5 per carry. So it wasn't like he was the worst running back you've ever seen. There's been worse than him. So I don't think that one as much of a concern as, man, we everything runs through Quinn. So it's not good.
Well, and all your weapons are through Quinn. I mean, you got to get the ball to your deep wide receiving core, your dangerous wide receiving core, and Gunnar Helm. I mean, those are your best weapons offensively. I love the running backs; they're great. They're not your best weapons offensively.
Yeah,
your best weapons offensively are in that wide receiving core. Mm-hmm. So I think it's more of a priority. Man, I would be more concerned if Quinn had a bad game or an off game versus Vandy than I would be about if the running game couldn't really be effective or couldn't be consistent. So that's my priority list of what I'm watching and my biggest concerns. It starts and ends with Quinn in that game versus Vandy. That's what I'm watching, and I think that's what Vandy's going to try to attack. I think they're going to try to, not go after Quinn in terms of blitzing, but their game plan. I think a lot of it will be built on, or at least it'll be built upon the idea that maybe we can confuse Quinn. Yeah. Maybe we can challenge Quinn. Can he throw the deep ball with accuracy, or is it still going to look duckish and underthrown? And if that's the case, can we just condense and compress everything and be aggressive on the short, intermediate, underneath routes, and therefore take Quinn out of his groove? Because that's what Georgia did, right? They were really aggressive and attacked all those short underneath routes and took that stuff away. And then by the time Quinn did have the wherewithal to look downfield, man, the pass rush was getting home. I don't know if Vanderbilt can do that. They don't have first round edge defenders like Georgia did, but I do think they're going to try to disguise and discombobulate Quinn. Yeah, confuse him.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you're going to try and come out and play red zone defense the entire first half, or just play red zone and just go, no, if you can throw it 30, 40 yards downfield, that's fine. But we're going to play 25 to 30 yards real tough. And if you can show you throw the ball over the top of us and get one on us in man coverage, we're ready for it. But until you can do that, we're going to guard 30 yards. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And play man behind that. We're not putting safeties over it because we want to shut everything down. Because again, for this game, and I mean most games, but Vanderbilt especially, it's those money downs, man. Money downs on both sides of the ball.
Yep. Totally agree. All right, good stuff there. We'll talk a little bit more Texas Vandy because we're going to go behind the burn-ons curtain next segment and dive deep into that matchup a little bit, and also talk about the availability report for both Texas and Vanderbilt. But we're also going to talk Cowboys here. There's a salacious story about stadium tours apparently that had Cowboys fans feeling a certain kind of way. We'll address that. There's a Cowboy that has jury duty, actually a really important Cowboy. So we'll dive into that too and give you an update on the injuries for both the 49ers and the Cowboys. But first, let's get educated, let's get updated, let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA last night, the Rockets lost their season opener to the Hornets after Charlotte overcame an 18-point deficit late in the first half. Alfred Şengün had 25 points and 18 rebounds, and Jalen Green added 28 more points. But a near triple-double performance from LaMelo Ball proved too much. Tonight, the Spurs and Mavs begin their seasons against each other at 6:30 on TNT. This will mark the regular season debut as Chris Paul as a Spur and Klay Thompson as a Maverick, with Devin Vassell out for the game, recovering from an offseason surgery on his foot. And in the NFL, the 5-1 Vikings look to get back on the winning track against the Rams on Thursday Night Football. Amid trade rumors, Cooper Kupp is expected to make his return to the field tonight, which could be a big boost for the Rams, with Puka Nacua still listed as questionable and Jordan Whittington listed as out for the game. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Appreciate those. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys just a little bit. And they got a big game coming up versus the 49ers. Both teams are really, really banged up. You have a ton of injuries on both sides of the football there, or both sides of this matchup, I should say. Christian McCaffrey still hasn't played due to Achilles tendonitis in both of his legs, but he could be back. November is what people are saying. By November, he could be back, but not for this matchup. Also, Brandon Ayuk, unfortunately, he got paid. Man, glad he got paid. See, this is why you got to get paid. This is why you, as a player, you need to get paid as soon as possible because you never know. Think about Brandon Ayuk had not gotten paid, then had that injury, and then everybody be like, well, now you lost value. And it's like, whose fault is that? I wanted to get paid. Y'all didn't want to pay me, and then I ended up getting hurt. So glad he got his money, but he's on IR for the rest of the season with a torn MCL and ACL ending his season. Also, how about this? Leading receiver Juan Jennings, he missed Sunday's game with an injury. So that's another concern. And then Debo, remember, he dealt with I don't think it was, some people describe it as a pneumonia-like sickness, whatever it was. He had some fluid in his lungs, and he ended up going to the hospital for that. George Kittle is now day-to-day on their reports. The healthiest receiver they have is Ricky Pearsall, who was shot in an attempted robbery like a couple of months ago. Like, he's the healthiest of the receivers. The guy still probably got like some lingering effects from that. And yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, this 49ers team, usually I got faith that, hey, the 49ers, they'll just out scheme and out coach the Cowboys. I'm not sure this 49ers team has enough to just out scheme and out coach the Cowboys. Now, I think they can out scheme and out coach them, but do they have enough personnel and enough weapons to actually be able to execute the Shanahan vision of like multiplicity and malleability? Like, this is not the Shanahan offense at all, especially if Debo's not going to play. Now, I will say I did see a report that Debo could be available. That Shanahan recently said that they want to be optimistic. They're unsure about Debo, but it could be a possibility that he might be available. Right? They don't want to say either way with him. Some of these guys are like, no, he's out. He's not available. They won't say he's unavailable for the game versus the Cowboys. So if they're not willing to if they're not willing to, be adamant about his status, I think you still got to leave it open that he could play, or maybe it's just gamesmanship for them.
Yeah,
so that's another thing to watch. And also, Michael Parsons did not practice yesterday. He's throwing it out there too.
This is that's one of those weird injuries because it's not a physical thing like a hamstring or something else where you go, okay, we know what it's basically like. We're just going to test his lungs, and if he can go through breathing drill and go through all the breathing things right, and he can pass a medical check, there isn't really a physical like weakness thing that would keep him off the field. So we don't know. He may progress in the next couple of days. We don't want to say he's out, because some guys recover faster than others. And if we say he's out and then he's back on Saturday, we look like we were lying.
And maybe that's more up to the medical team at the hospital that's overseeing his treatment of whatever it is. Like I said, even when they described it, it was like, it's pneumonia-like. And I'm like, what? So they don't know what it is? That's nothing scarier than when you go to the doctor and they don't know what's going on. Isn't that freaky when they're like, they examine you and they go, yeah, we're not really sure. And like, you got all these books and all this medical expertise. You mean hundreds of years of medical expertise and you don't know what's going on with this little thing on my neck?
No.
Okay. You know,
I don't need there to be a Patrick Davis disease.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they always say. Like, that's when you want to freak out when your doctor's like, yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what's going on. It's like, oh no, I need you to be able to nail this thing. When you see it, like, oh, I know exactly what this is. Don't worry. We know exactly. We've seen this a million times. It's like, nope, we freak you out. And they're like, yeah, it's pneumonia like.
Yeah, really sure when you walk in there and they go, you got a case of Babersitis. You're like, wait.
Yeah, right.
You named this after me? I don't like that.
They bring in other doctors too. They're like, oh, I've been seeing this. You know what? Let me go get one of my coworkers here.
Do you mind signing a release? We're gonna put this in a medical journal.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna be in the medical journal. Never good. Never good. Never good to be in the medical journal. All right, there you go. So the Micah Parsons, they're hopeful with Micah Parsons. I don't expect Micah Parsons to play in this game. You don't want to rush him back. So I think you might be without Micah in this contest too. But Deron Bland is someone that he did have a setback last week, and they thought he might be available last week, but had the setback. So this week, I believe that they are hopeful that Deron Bland could also be back with the team this week as well. But even with all the Cowboys' injuries they've had mounting up, man, this is the game for the Cowboys. You got to find a way to beat this 49er team. You can't beat this 49er team as banged up as they are. The lack of star power they have, and they haven't gotten to the injuries they had on defense. They got injuries on defense too. Yeah. With several starters that they're dealing with on the defense side of the ball. If the Cowboys cannot beat this 49er squad, then you're never going to beat them. Like, you might as well just mail it in. You're never going to beat this 49er squad. And if you run into them later on in the playoffs, you know they're going to be healthier. And you can't beat them without Christian McCaffrey. Potentially without a Debo, no Brandon Ayuk. All right. Kittle's even banged up. So if he plays, he's still going to be banged up. He's not going to be 100%. And Brock Purdy coming off his worst game. Well, second worst game. I think he had a 4 interception game, and this was a 3 interception game. So second worst game of his career. Yeah. And the Cowboys, and I think it may be time for the Cowboys to look at the reality of the situation they're in. Because you're not going to win a Super Bowl if you start 3-4. Matter of fact, that's the issue the 49ers are dealing with right now.
Yeah, they're 3-4 too.
Yeah, exactly. Right, because I saw this stat about the 49ers. Out of the 58 Super Bowl winners, do you know how many started 3-4?
I'm gonna go with 0-1.
1. 2001 Patriots. That's it. Out of the 58 Super Bowl winners. Only the 2001 Patriots started 3-4. Only 3 other teams started 4-3. As the other 54 teams all had at least 5 wins in their first 7 NFL games. Let that sink in.
Yeah, I'll give Dallas a bye on that one because they had a bye week already. Mm-hmm. That maybe they could buck the stack of the bye week.
But don't go 3-4. Don't go 3-4 because you ain't 2001 Patriots. You want to know why you're not 2001 Patriots? Do you need me to break it down? Why you ain't the 2001 Patriots? Okay, we don't need to get into that, right? So don't start 3-4 because if you're 3-4, officially your hopes of winning the Super Bowl, they're pretty much out the window. And that's where the 49ers are right now. 49ers would have to basically do something that hadn't been done. It's only been done once, and only the 2001 Patriots did it, which is win a Super Bowl after starting 3-4.
Yeah, which I mean, and the 49ers, you go, well, it's Christian McCaffrey, and if he comes back, then everything starts to click. But then you have to believe that Christian McCaffrey is going to come back healthy, the same guy, and stay healthy, which that's also a tall task at this point.
Yeah, and the thing about the Christian McCaffrey, because I agree with you, by the way, Christian McCaffrey was the final piece to this machinery of malleability that he was building, this monster of multiplicity that he had built, right? It was the last piece. And these pieces are very unique across the league that you just don't find them. He looks for them, but they're tough to find. But Christian, if you don't do it this year with Christian McCaffrey, it's about to get him the money. The Father Time is unkind and undefeated.
Yeah.
Father Time's about to start whipping Christian McCaffrey. It's just the beginning of the end for him with all the tendonitis issues and everything. He's not going to all of a sudden now, Derrick Henry did, but he's not going to all of a sudden find the fountain of youth.
No.
And you need to go find another Christian McCaffrey. or you need to go trade for Alvin Kamara.
You're gonna get
or go find you a Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's time for Shanahan to do that. I don't know what he's been waiting on.
you gotta go
Now,
get
Chris McCaffrey is unique, but there are a couple of guys in the league that have that ability.
yeah, you go get
Jahmyr Gibbs and Alvin Kamara. You need to go find one of them dudes.
Luke McCaffrey over there in Washington. Go get him.
No, Luke, very different skill sets for those McCaffreys. You know, well, Bijan is kind of like that. Bijan could do that if you need Bijan to kind of be that guy. But there's only like 3 or 4 guys like that in the whole league.
Yeah.
And Chris McCaffrey is one of them. But Shannon needs to go find another one because I think this is just the start of his I think, twilight of his career. I know he's been dealing with injuries.
You're gonna try to find one in the draft because your money's about to get tied up too. Because you're about to pay Brock Purdy. You got to pay Debo again if you're going to keep him in. Because his money's going to come up too. So you got to pay both them. And you're already paying Brandon Ayuk now. And he's not going to be there for a little bit.
No, I'm with you. I agree with you. You got to find one. And they can find a running back. That's no problem. This Chris McCaffrey is not just a running back. Right? I call him a smart back. You know, you can go get a really cheap cell phone. Will cost you nothing. Like you can get it for cheap, like pennies on the dollar. I'm not joking. Like, if you want this actual cell phone, what you pay for is the smartphone. What you pay all the money for, the thousands of dollars and all that, and all the data that you pay for every month, that's because of the smartphone. You want access to the internet. You want to be able to, you want to be able to make business moves and to make business deals on your phone. You want to be able to essentially run your life through this device. Well, that's going to cost you. That's the smart money. But if you just want a cell phone to make calls on your cell phone and to send a text, oh, that's cheap. That's cheap. Matter of fact, you might not even be able to get one. They might not even sell you one. You got to be like Jerry Jones to even find one like that. Like, sir, we don't sell those. we don't just sell a cell phone. I think for kids they have them because like they don't want the kids to have access to the internet, so they just have like a cell phone where they can send a text and they can call you. That's it. Call like 5 numbers and send like a text. That's about it. And if you want that technology, it's really cheap. And that's how I feel about running backs. If you want a running back that just runs the football, those guys are a dime a dozen. You can go find a bunch of them. Really, you can find them late in the draft, undrafted, they're easy. But if you want a guy that does what Christian McCaffrey does, what Jahmyr Gibbs does, what Alvin Kamara does, Bijan does, that's going to cost you. That's a smartphone right there. Yeah. That's going to cost you some money.
You should tell the Cowboys where to find those running backs, though. I think they need some help finding those running backs.
That's a great point about the Cowboys. Speaking of, let's get to this story real quick about
Cowboys.
The Cowboys.
Got a Nokia back there.
Yeah. No, remember Jerry Jones had a flip phone. That was a couple of years ago. I don't know if he still does. Remember he had a flip phone. And turns out I read an article that he's not the only billionaire. Billionaires are very paranoid about getting hacked.
Yes.
And you can't hack an old school cell phone, a flip phone. They don't have the technology. You need a smartphone. It needs to be smart enough so I can hack it.
Yes.
Your phone is too stupid. If it's an old school cell phone, I can't hack your stupid phone. Right? I need a phone that's smart, then I can hack your smartphone. And that's why they say there's some billionaires out there that they don't like smartphones. They don't like. They think they'll get hacked, and they probably will. And you know that ransomware. I mean, they're hacking a lot of companies, and you don't even know about it. Well, they hack them, and then they ask for a certain amount of money, and the company's like, we'll just give it to them because we're gonna lose more money by trying to fight this thing, and they've already hacked us. Let's just give it to them. And I'm not joking. You can go read stories about it. 60 Minutes did a piece about it. Happened all over the place.
It happened to a company we use at the radio station. That was a major
issue
for a month.
Yeah. Oh no, it happened to. I won't even real. It happened to a car dealer, a local car dealer here in Austin, and an absolute ish show. And I was just talking to him about it. But it's happening to companies all over the world all the time. Actually, unfortunately. And a lot of them just end up paying it. Some of them report it to the authorities and they go through the proper authorities. But some of them was like, no, how much you asking for? What you want? 1.2 million? I just pay it. So we can get back to business here. And I feel like that's why a lot of billionaires, they don't want to be hacked.
Yep.
Plus they probably got some shady stuff on their phone anyway. And they get exposed. They're like, you know what? I'll just keep it on my regular cell phone. And so I don't know if Jerry still has the flip phone, but out of paranoia, he had a flip phone. Just a regular. And why does he doesn't need a cell phone. He's got people around him that'll all do that.
Yeah,
stuff.
Exactly.
He's got people around like, hey, man, can you go? I need you to write this email. I need you to do this. Hey, I need you to set this up. I mean, he doesn't need to do it himself. We're all gen pop poor people. We got to do all this stuff ourselves. Jerry don't do none of that stuff himself. He don't need it. All he needs is a cell phone. All right. There you go. Random stuff. But here's the story I want to get to about the Cowboys. So there was a piece done in ESPN about the stadium tours in the NFL. And they're really lucrative. And I've never actually even been on one of these things, but apparently a lot of fans, they go on stadium tours, and every team has stadium tours. But the Cowboys have the most unique stadium tours in the NFL. And they are unique because they're very intimate. They offer more access than any other team in the league. Usually player areas, the training facility, or the weight room, different workout areas, usually off limits. They'll be like, the players, they work out in there. The players are back there. And you go, ooh, the players are back there. That's cool. And you keep on walking. Well, with the Cowboys, they take you there where the players are. So you can go see Dak work out. You can go see the players and how they, obviously how they operate in the day to day. And this has come under scrutiny recently, or at least some people have criticized it recently. And in this piece, this young lady got quotes from players, former Cowboys players, who are now with other teams, and giving their thoughts on the difference between the Cowboys and the Cowboys organization, given that intimate inside access to fans, and other organizations being a little bit more, secretive and being a little bit more guarded in terms of protecting their players from just from that type of access and from having the interaction with fans and having to deal with that on the day to day. Cowboys are like, nope, hey, being a Cowboy, that's just part of the deal. And here in this article, here are some of the quotes from players who were quoted in the article about the difference between the teams they play for now and the Cowboys back then. This is from Dorms Armstrong, who's with Washington now, who says, I'm smiling when I walk in the building here. I just know, like I just have work. Tony Pollard said, this is more about football here. He's with Tennessee now. This is more about football here, just X's and O's. He said, I'm in a better place mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, just all around. Kelvin Joseph, who's with Kansas City, at least he was, he says, over here, the point is football and winning championships. There in Dallas, it was a lot of football and like other stuff. They got Dante Fowler quoted in here saying, you got real facilities here. You might not see tourists coming around, but it keeps the main thing the main thing. And then there's a quote here from J-Run Curse, who said, when I was with the Cowboys, it's like you're in a zoo and kids are going to see a lion. That's not a reason why we didn't get over that hump, but I just don't think that really equates to winning, is what he said. Now, some of the players have come out and disputed these quotes from this report. Dante Fowler said, quote, I didn't say that, Cap. Kelvin Joseph said, LOL, they tried to set us up, with a laughing emoji. And here it also has a quote from Jordan Lewis about it, a current Cowboy. He said, listen, guys, it's Jerry's world. That's not our job to go out there and tell Jerry what to do with his organization. Our job is to go out there and win games, regardless of if you see tours as a distraction like the media or anybody else. We got to do our job regardless of the circumstances. So we can't look at it like that. He made a multi-billion-dollar organization like this. It's not going to stop. So get used to it. And he's right about that. Matter of fact, speaking of the multi-billion dollars, also in this article, it points out that they sell over 500,000 tickets to these in-stadium tours each year. The Dallas Cowboys do, by the way. The Cowboys do. They sell 500,000 annually, and said it generates nearly $10 million of annual revenue for the Cowboys, but actually for everybody, because that is a part of their football related income, which is part of the league's shared revenue, in which the players get like 48%, owners get like 52%. So it's for everybody, but still nobody makes more money off of those stadium tours than Jerry Jones. And I've always said this about Jerry, because it is also reflected in, people started talking recently about the stadium again. Right? Remember when the stadium was first built, people talked about how the glare from the sun at certain times of the day, it would shine through one of the end zones, right? A big window in the back of the end zone, and it would shine through there and be blinding. The glare would be blinding, not only to opposing players, but to Cowboys players too. And it's a realistic thing. And he talked about it again after that Lions game. And those are just like this. They are examples of, and you could make the argument that Jerry's just a brilliant marketing mind, but for Cowboys fans, they're examples of a microcosm of the much larger issue that Jerry will prioritize style over substance, because he has stated several times. I went and found the quote that about the glare from the sun, that comes into the stadium through an end zone. And yes, he did it for the aesthetics. He likes the way that it makes the field look when the sun is shining down in there. It's beautiful. It does. It's beautiful aesthetics. I mean, it's one of the I think the more picturesque, all right, stadiums and scenes in all of the NFL. But most stadiums are built to try to give the team a home field advantage rather than trying to make sure that it's appealing aesthetically. And when Jerry Jones was asked about, hey, why not use the curtains to because he has industrial sized curtains to shield the glare or to cover the glare from the sun. He said, I wish to hell all I had to worry about was a ball hitting the screen or a little sun getting in there. He said, conditions and elements have been a part of football since it was spelled the first time. No, that's about 10,000 on my list of things to worry about. And no, we're not going to do anything with it. So $1 billion stadium. And Jerry saying, listen, I'm more worried about, other things than worried about how that affects the execution on the field. And some people are saying, well, why wouldn't you, want to give your team the most ideal situation possible in terms of conditions on the field so that they could execute at an elite level? But that's not a priority. The priority is, hey, the aesthetics and how it looks. And the same thing with the stadium tours. The priority is, hey, fans need access because and this is a brilliant marketing strategy by Jerry, we're celebrity obsessed culture. He knows that. Cowboys are the number one TV star on the number one TV show in America, whether you like it or not. And Jerry Jones is the reason for that. And because of that, I think Jerry Jones understands people want access to the TV star, which is Dallas Cowboys. And that's part of what makes them so intriguing, so compelling, even without the wins, without the championships the last couple of decades. It doesn't matter. They're still the most interesting celebrity, if you will, in the NFL. It's just the brand that is Dallas Cowboys. That's why he doesn't mind the players building their own brand, because it all points back. It all ends up flowing back to the Dallas Cowboys and their brand. So I know people don't like it because they're thinking about winning. And why isn't Jerry prioritizing winning as his top emphasis and as the main thing, if you will? I think Jerry's main thing a lot of the time is making sure, reinforcing that the Cowboys are the number one TV star on the number one TV show in America. That's what this helps. That's what, in my opinion, that's what kind of feeds into these great ideas from Jerry. And it is a great idea, but does it help winning? No. Is it the reason that they're not winning? No. They the guys who are whining over this as a distraction. It's a very micro distraction, if that, but it is a microcosm of the much larger issue, which is Jerry is a style over substance guy. And those guys don't win championships in the league. Those owners don't win championships. They're fun to follow, though. They're interesting. Got great headlines. I mean, look, we always got Cowboys stuff to talk about. Not always Cowboys championship to talk about. That is the biggest difference for the Cowboys. So I know people are talking about the stadium tours, but I think for Jerry Jones, ultimately, like I said, it ain't about the stadium tours. It's more about his philosophy in building this organization. All right, we come back. We'll get into the Texas Longhorns and their philosophy going up against the Vanderbilt Commodores. We'll talk about the matchup. We'll also get into the availability report on both sides for Texas and also for Vanderbilt, and talk about what that means for their upcoming matchup this weekend. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into this Texas Vanderbilt matchup a little bit and break it down. I want to start with the availability report, the injury report for Texas and for Vanderbilt. We did see for Vanderbilt, I talked about this yesterday. They got two start. Now they got a long list of guys on their injury report. They got Zaylen Wood, Mark Davis, and Grayson Morgan are all out. Zaylen Wood is a D lineman. Mark Davis is a cornerback, and Grayson Morgan is an offensive lineman. They're out, but all these guys are questionable. Eli Stowers, the leading receiver, he's the tight end. He's questionable. Langston Patterson, he's a linebacker, third leading tackler, if I'm not mistaken, on the team. He's questionable. He's been out for the last 2 weeks. AJ Newberry, running back, is questionable. Martell Height, cornerback, is questionable. Cedric Alexander, the local Austin product who's starting running back for them, he's questionable. He's definitely going to play. Miles Capers, the edge rusher, who is, I think he's got 1.5 sacks on the season. I think he's third on the team in tackles for loss. Miles Capers, the edge rusher, he's questionable. And then Linus Zonk, the defensive lineman, is questionable. I would say more than half these guys are, in my opinion, definitely going to play. There's no way Cedric Alexander's out. He's playing University of Texas. He grew up in the backyard of the University of Texas, went to LBJ. He going to play. Just as a player, he gonna play. I don't know exactly what his what percentage he'll be, but that's personal for him. That young man's gonna play. And we were talking about this yesterday. I was looking at Clark Lee's media availability, and even Clark Lee said his media availability. He said on Monday that he anticipates starting linebacker Langston Patterson and starting edge rusher Miles Capers to be available when they play Texas, even though they've missed the last 2 games with injuries. Patterson, he missed the last 2 games with an ankle injury. Capers said out last week he had a neck strain, I believe it was. And he said he expects both to play. And Miles Capers, he is second on the team with 4.5 tackles for loss, third on the team with 1.5 sacks. He had a sack fumble against Jalen Milroe. That was a big play in that game. And then you have Langston Patterson. He injured his ankle. He injured his ankle in their win over Alabama, and then he left the game, and then he came back. But he's now third on the team, so he's missed. I think he missed last week though, but he's third on the team in tackles. He was the leading tackler last season, and if they get him back, along with Capers, I mean, you're talking about. I mean, that's a big part of their defense, especially in their front seven. So I expect both of those guys to play. Like I said, Cedric Alexander, he's definitely going to play. And Eli Stowers is their leading receiver at tight end. He actually came from New Mexico State with Diego Pavia, so they got more chemistry than anybody else. And he is the catalyst in the passing game for them. They really don't have much of a passing game identity, but Eli Stowers, the tight end, who is the highest rated tight end right now in the Power 4. Yeah, if you go look at Pro Football Focus grades, they got him as the highest graded Power 4 tight end. Eli Stowers, 89.3 grade, former quarterback that committed to A&M, ended up transferring to Mexico State, and now plays tight end. He's going to play. So I would venture to say, like I said, half those guys, Stowers, Patterson, Cedric Alexander, and Miles Capers, that's half of those questionable guys, or more than half. And they got 7 here questionable. They're going to play. So expect that, especially against the number 5 team in the country. One of the things that I think is going to be big in this matchup is spying Diego Pavia. Let's just assume that you do get them in passing situations. And that's going to be big. If you can get them in pass situations, you want to make sure you put a double spy on that dude, just like you did against Michael Hawkins for Oklahoma. Different type of athlete at quarterback. And Michael Hawkins was twitchy, probably easier to bring down once you got your hands on him because he was twitchy. So in open field, he could be a problem. This young man, Diego Pavia, is different. He's kind of the opposite. He's not very twitchy and he's not fast in terms of fleet of feet. But I do think he's tough. Maybe it's tough to bring down the open field. He's got 22 force missed tackles on the season. Actually 27 force missed tackles. They're back 22 scrambles for 162 yards. He likes to scramble, and he's pretty damn good at it when he does scramble. Remember I told you guys, scrambling, that's the most efficient, effective play, arguably at all of football at the NFL or the college level, is the scramble. Just because when the play breaks down and deteriorates, there's usually nobody to account for that guy. Texas needs to account for that guy. And Texas will probably be playing a lot of base coverage. Bases when you only have 4 DBs in there, not a lot of sub packages with your nickel and your dime. If you're going to be base with 3 linebackers and 4 linebackers out there, and maybe you want to go with, that package where you have 3 D tackles on the field, almost in a bare front. 3 D tackles. Bare front means you're covering up the center and the 2 guards, and they're all D tackles, right? Just 3 D tackles to make sure you got enough girth and size and mass inside. And then put those 2 edges on the outside. Maybe it's Trey Moore and Barron Sorrell on the outside. Maybe it's Barron Sorrell and Colin Simmons. Who knows? But those 2 guys are your edge rushers. So you do essentially have your 5-man front there. And then you can have Anthony Hill playing that inside linebacker spot there too. So if you're going to have that, then you're going to make sure you're going to either using Colin Simmons or Leon Lafau or David Benda situationally, no matter how you want to play it with your base, that you have a spy on him. And I like the double spy because Pavia, former wrestler in high school, he likes to fight guys, I call him, tough to bring down, and he doesn't, usually let the first guy bring him down. Fights for extra yardage, falls forward, just gritty. And I think them having a spy on him, assuming you earn the right to rush the passer, putting a spy on him is going to be crucial. And I think for Texas, you're probably going to start off in base. You're probably going to start off with 3 down or 4 down linemen and 3-4 or 4-3, just to match up with the running game of the very exotic running game of Vanderbilt. And I told you guys how unconventional and how unorthodox the running game is. I would even call it obtuse because they just combine things that you don't normally see combined. Like when I'm watching, I'm going, oh, that's a QB keeper. But they ran a counter with it. Oh, they ran a QB keeper. They ran a QB keeper counter, and you go, yeah, that's what they did. And when you're starting to identify the elements and the concepts, you realize they're combining some really funky concepts, which can be problematic and troublesome for a defense if you've never seen them. You don't practice against that. You practice against spread teams, spreading the ball out. This is basically an option team, and they do run triple option. And they run inside zone triple option. They run the power veer. And you don't play against teams like that. Assignment football. A lot of this is assignment football with Vanderbilt. And they're going to do it out of power sets, power packages, power personnel groupings, 13, 12, 30, and 21. Sometimes they'll spread you out. Sometimes they'll bring it in. But the same size split zone, same side play action bootleg off of the none counter from off of that split zone play action element. I mean, they do a lot of stacking, which is they have one play instead of have the QB keeper, and then they'll stack it. So say, all right, let's go QB keeper counter, and let's stack it again. QB keeper counter with a pop pass. And you go, well, damn, I stopped the QB keeper, and now I got to stop the QB keeper counter. Now I got to stop the QB keeper pound because they always, whatever your adjustment is, they got something else they can stack on top of it that can expose whatever you left vulnerable by allocating resources to defend that particular concept, the original concept. Like I said, originally QB keeper, then a QB keeper counter. Then let's add a pop pass on top of that. Right. And they do that. They go same side split zone. And they go, all right, now off of the same side split zone, let's add the play action element off of it. Hey, let's add the bootleg off of it. So let's go same side split zone, play action bootleg. And you go, whew, and they keep just stacking it. And they go, all right, let's go same side split zone, play action bootleg off non-counter action. And you go, whew, and it's just, and they just wait for you to, all right, you stop this. All right, let's stack it. Let's stack something else on top of it. All right, let's stack something else on top of it. And that's what I've noticed about the offense that makes it really, really unique. And so what I'm identifying, like, oh, they like the power veer, but they got the power veer, but then they add the wrinkle of the shovel pass. Go power veer shovel pass. And you go, that's another stack added element you have to worry about as a defender. And then by the third quarter, you have to defend every iteration of that play from the original, which was just a simple power veer to, now they've added the shovel pass onto it at the end of the day. And then they've added an option element onto it. They are just doing, or they might add a pitch element, right? They got, we could pitch it or we could shovel it. And you got to defend the pitch, Got to defend the shovel, but don't forget to defend the quarterback design run too, because he can run it. And then you realize, like, I'm defending like six different things in one, and that's how Vanderbilt gets you. Because once you forget to defend that one thing, you get a little bit lazy, or you get a little bit complacent, or you just get distracted and forgot all about the pitch. Pitch right there. Forgot all about the shovel. Shovel's right there. Oh, I defended the quarterback keeper and the quarterback keeper counter. I forgot about the pop pass. Pop pass. Got him. That's how they work. And they do it really, really well. All right, we come back. We'll get into Off the Record on the other side. Wacky stories from the sports world and beyond. And we'll come back and address those right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Horn. Rod Baby's coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some off of the record stories. These are still sports related, but kind of off the beaten path for us anyway. So basketball season just started, and I was reading about the Clippers' new $2 billion arena. $2 billion.
Yeah, he's got the money.
Man, you're right, Steve Ballmer. He's got plenty of that. So the Intuit Dome is, they say it's going to be one of the most technologically advanced arenas in the world already. $2 billion he spent to build it. So how about this? Apparently, this is what this is all from the article I read. And shout out to Joe Pompliano. He said the Clippers, they signed a 23-year, $500 million naming rights deal with Intuit before the arena even opened. Damn. 23-year naming rights deal. That's got to be a long. I mean, I don't know how long those things are, but that's a long time.
Yeah. I mean, how long was
has,
Heinz's?
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it feels like that was a while.
Yeah, it was a while. You're right. I don't know. It's like I don't know if they maybe just make them long and they never renew them. You would think, but I guess that's wild. 23 years though. The arena has 1,160 toilets. That is 3 times more than the average NBA arena. It means that there is one toilet for every 15 seats. It's not bad. So you ain't got to worry about crowded bathrooms. I guess that's one of the main concerns when you go to a game. It's like, I don't want to go wait 15 minutes to go to the bathroom and miss some of the damn game.
Now, here's the question. How many sinks?
Aha. Yeah, that's true, though. Yeah,
just telling you, there's a hang up twice in these lines.
Well, you know what? Unfortunately, there's never a line at the sink. Unfortunately, because people walk right on out after they get done with the toilet.
and then you go over and you try and swipe at the towel machine. There's only 2 towel machines.
Oh yeah,
and then everyone's trying to go those, and then you hit it, and then one's out, and then you got then there's just a line at one.
Always. Yep, you're right. Otherwise, there's one sink with the soaps out there, so everybody's trying to get the soap from one thing.
Yeah,
I'm with you. Yep, but apparently they're trying to get rid of some of those stress factors when you go out to watch a game here at this new arena. How about this? All concession stands have the same menu to minimize decision making, and fans will do contactless checkout via grab and go, like Amazon Go stores. All right, so there you go. So they don't want people sitting in line like staring up at the menu the whole damn time. It seems like they're trying to be expedient here.
Yes,
and just get people in and out of things. Like, hey, go order your food, go sit back down. Yes. Go to the bathroom, go sit back down. The Clippers also, I love this because F1 should be ashamed of themselves. It was a great event, but they should be embarrassed about the way they handle traffic out there. Their traffic control issues. It's horrible.
Yeah,
it's horrible. I'm not joking, guys. Like, I was in a parking lot there because I had to host an event over the weekend. Twice. I got stuck in the parking lot there. I probably moved, I'm not joking, 15 yards in like an hour. Not joking. They basically when the event is done, everybody's leaving at the same time, and most people were in the same parking lot, and they got one way in, one way out, and it's no cops around to try to regulate the a-holes. So it is just the a-holes run everything. They're just driving across the grass. They're doing whatever. There is like just no organization at all, like about how to get it. I got in and out. So I ended up actually the first day, the traffic was so bad. They took us to another parking lot to exit on the other side of the track. They like ushered us on the other side. It took me hour and a half, maybe hour and 45 minutes to get out of the parking lot to get to the road. Yeah. I'm not joking. And on Sunday, I was stuck there. Same thing, about an hour, moved about maybe 15, 20 yards. Same stuff, Thunderdome, right? It's Mad Max in there. People just trying to figure out any way they can to get the hell out. And the traffic is just traffic Mageddon. Nice Hispanic gentleman who has a place right by the parking lot that we were in, like the field that we were parking in. He knocks his gate down and starts taking money for people to drive through his property to get out to the street. Guy easily made $1,000. He's charging $10 a hit. Easily probably made $1,000 there. I'm not joking. He probably easily made $1,000 because when I went over there and got in the line, and it was like 15 people ahead of me, and he was just like taking the money, and you can just drive through the property. He knocked his fence down, or he had like an opening in his fence. And as soon as I went over there, dude, you should have seen how many people just started just spinning out just to go follow me. It's like because some dude asked, he's like, "What's going on over there?" I was like, "I think people are getting out over there, man." He was like, "Really?" And I was like, "I'm going for it because I can't do it." Because I was like, "I can't stay here any longer. I can't do it." I was like, "Whatever it is better than this situation here." So I went over there. Nice man. He was like, "Hey man, you can drive to my property. I just need $10." Like $10, man, you should charge $50. I was like, you should charge way more than $10.
After me.
Yeah, after me. I was like, you should be rich because these people got a lot of money out here. All right, they got cash on them. I was like, take their money and let me get the hell out of here. But yeah, that's how I got it the second time. So my point is, they should be ashamed of themselves because they still haven't fixed it. F1's been around for what? How long now? How long they been out there?
Coda's been around and F1 and all that. Yeah,
come on, man. It's a damn shame. Anyway, sorry, my complaints. Anyway, the Clippers spent millions of dollars to upgrade their city's traffic control system to allow the city to manage traffic signals around the arena better so that you can get in and out of traffic a little bit better, which is really convenient and cool. Good for them. They also point out here that they said the double-sided 360-degree scoreboard is the size of an acre and will display advanced stats and analytics throughout the game. What?
Yeah, it's huge.
They said the double-sided
Must be huge.
360-degree scoreboard is the size of an acre and will display advanced stats and analytics throughout the year. That is crazy. That's wild. Oh yeah, I guess they mean the circumference of it all around because it's like it's a round one. That is freaky. Well, I've never seen anything like that. All right, this may be something you got to visit. You're a basketball guy. You might have to go visit.
Yeah, they played. They were there last night.
Place.
I'll have to go back and watch some of the highlights. I've not watched it. I didn't watch that game last night, but yeah, they played the Suns last night there. So
yes, yeah.
I'll have to go back and look at some of it. I know they have the wall of fans that you have to get the tickets, and like you can't sell them, and then you have to be at every game. Like they have a special like super fan section that's supposed to be
super fan section.
Like they call it the wall. It's supposed to be the most intense, and you're like, man, I can't. That LA seems like a weird place to do that. I get what you're trying to do, but
damn, how about this? Arena seats are heated.
In LA,
the arena seats are. They said the arena seats are heated. It says here in this article, the arena. I don't know. I'm with you. Well, maybe it's an AC. Can we get both? Can I get an option? Can I get a cooled and heated? It says they are heated and have USB ports to charge phones, and have massage settings.
Come on,
arena seats have massage settings.
That's got to be for the VIP seats. That's not every seat.
I don't know. Yeah, it can't be.
You're not in the upper deck with massages.
In his article, it says, as I said, this article it just says arena seat. It can't. I'm with you. It can't be every seat. There's no way. It's got to be like a special section or at least a cutoff for the gin pop. There's no way it's every seat. It said there are also controllers built into the seats so fans can answer trivia questions for prizes during TV timeouts. These are pretty advanced seats, though.
Man,
either way.
This thing is going to be broken in 12 games.
You
have this much stuff. It's going to break.
Yeah, you're right. That's the smarter something is, the more it breaks. That's the worst thing about that. Oh, it's really smart. Don't worry, they'll be broken and all kinds of stuff.
Until somebody who wins free tickets is complaining because their massager's not working right, and then you'll be sitting there like, "Why did we spend all this money? These ungrateful people." I hit the right answer, and it said I hit the wrong one. Come on, it's a stupid game. It doesn't matter.
Oh man, that's pretty good. That's so basically talking about a smart arena. Is this basically the first smart arena? The whole thing is probably just a smart arena. $2 billion. I mean, Jerry Jones Stadium costs like $1 billion.
Yeah, but it's a football
$2 billion is a lot of money.
Yeah, I think Jerry Jones stadium versus a basketball arena is a big difference.
That's what I'm saying. So he spent $2 billion on an arena.
Yeah,
and he spent $1 billion on the stadium. So imagine it is technologically pretty advanced, though. He's got put a lot of money into this thing.
He's got it. He's the richest owner in basketball by a very long margin. So.
Yeah, it actually ain't even close either. Yeah, I mean, it's actually $2 billion. I'm sure he just paid for it himself. I mean, he probably could have used tax dollars. I'm sure.
Yeah, but I think he's probably got. I think he's got an area around it too. That's the new area where you make it. You basically buy this whole area, and then you put all these shops and stuff around it.
Like Jerry did.
Yeah,
just as Jerry did in Arlington.
Yeah, it's what everybody's doing. That's why Mark Cuban said he sold the teams. He's like, that's the game plan now. He's like, I can't do that. So
yeah,
I'm still the team.
That's a good point. All right, yeah, Mark Cuban. I think Mark Cuban's trying to get on the ground floor of legalized sports betting in Texas whenever that happens too. But who knows when the hell that's going to happen? We could be decades away from that. All right, we come back. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets on the other side. We'll talk Texans on the other side as well. Continue to talk Texas versus Vanderbilt as well and preview that matchup. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast, and that's when my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis, we usually inspired by the events around him, something dear to his heart and near to his heart. He comes up with a creative theme for every Thursday, and this Thursday, our new theme Thursday is focused on basketball because basketball season is upon us. My man Patrick is probably the biggest NBA fan that I know, loves basketball, and he wants to show us how much he loves it by devoting new theme Thursday to basketball. So all the jams reference and all the jams are about basketball. Nice one. This is Chris Rock on here?
Yeah, Barry White and Chris Rock.
Why?
Well, so this
What
song
movie?
originally was Cheech and Chong. They originally did. Cheech and Chong did this back in the day. And then for Space Jam, they got Chris Rock and Barry White.
Space Jam. I was going to say, so why is Barry White and Chris? That makes sense.
Yeah, they did it for Space Jam.
Okay, there you go. That makes sense. See, I didn't even know that song was on the Space Jam soundtrack. This is the original Space Jam soundtrack.
Yeah, I believe
right?
they played during the credits. That's like at the end of it.
Okay. Wow, man. That's a trivia question that damn near everybody would get it wrong.
Oh man, well, we all had the Space Jam soundtrack.
What comedian did Barry White collaborate with on the Space Jam soundtrack? You might be able to guess if I gave you that much info, but still. Anyway, that's all. There you go. Learn something new on the musically themed days of the week. Patrick also comes up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, and that is already posted for you at the Horn ATX on X. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
The big fat poll of the day today: how many sacks will Texas allow versus Vanderbilt? That is your question, your poll of the day. Right now, one is leading the way now with 33% of the vote, 31% of the vote with 0, 23% of the vote with 2, and 14% of the vote with 3+.
Yeah, 3+, man. That's
I told you,
there's some really pessimistic Longhorn fans or somebody's trolling us.
No, I'm telling you, people are freaking out. People I've talked to this week are acting as if our O-line just started playing football in the Georgia game and they were terrible at it. Like just ignoring the rest of the season, ignoring the rest of the season, ignoring the fact they gave up a sack on the first play of the Oklahoma game and then didn't for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I remember that. That I remember being like, "Oh no, it might be a long day if they get a sack on the first damn play of the game." And you're right; they were great the rest of the time. Yeah, I think the O-line. Listen, I just think we're not giving enough props to Georgia. I've come to that realization that I was a fool to underestimate the standard bearers of college football right now, which is the Georgia Bulldogs, who haven't lost 2 games since 2020. And Kirby Smart's the best coach in college football, and it was his mastermind of a defense versus, Sark, who also is a brilliant offensive mind, but Kirby Smart outcoached him. Texas got outcoached. Texas got outplayed. And say what you want about Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's doing really good, but they don't have Mikael Williams. They don't have one of them.
No.
They don't have a Jalen Walker, who those guys combined for 5 of the 7 sacks in that game. And guys, both of those guys are playing on Sundays. I mean, not only playing on Sunday, might be drafted in the early rounds, like first 2 rounds.
They don't have the secondary that's going to be able to not allow anybody to get open on plays and cover up guys like Georgia was able to do and make. There will be plays where they confuse Quinn more. There'll be plays, and I mean there was a couple of plays where Quinn then decided he was going to start running, and then there's a spy or somebody right over the top of him.
Yep,
and he just goes,
that ain't happening.
And so it's.
That ain't happening.
Yeah, so it's like I just don't think they have those players at Vanderbilt, but I have it at 1. 1 is what I have of sacks. I think 1 gets through,
too.
But I think this O-line is really, really good, and they want to come out and show that they're really, really good this week. So you're going to see. I'm sure Clark Lee and this Vanderbilt team are going to try and disguise as much as they possibly can and try and throw anything to confuse Quinn to get him to hold the ball a little bit longer. But at the same part, they just don't have the same talent that Georgia does.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is that Vanderbilt defense, it's not a good defense. It's not bad. It's not bad either, but I'm not saying it's a terrible defense. I mean, they're a top 70 red zone defense. They're a top 70 pass defense, top 50 scoring defense, top 90 third down defense. Their rush defense is probably the most impressive. They're top 50 rush defense. So that's pretty impressive. But like I said, there's nothing spectacular about the defense, in my opinion. And so if Texas can't get Quinn back on track and Quinn doesn't have a good game versus Vanderbilt, or you can't get the running game going versus Vanderbilt, then I'll be concerned. Then I'm not going to be as panicked as some of the folks that you're talking to. But I'll admit then there needs to at that point be a serious conversation about what's happening with the offense. Like what's going on right now. I think it was just Georgia. Georgia was just that damn good, man. They were just that damn good. And you were just that damn bad too, by the way. I'm talking about their offense, their defense versus your offense. As Patrick was pointing out, when we're talking about our criticism of the Georgia game, we're almost just excluding what the defense did.
Yes.
That's not what we're talking about, because the defense was amazing. They were, and they still are, the best defense in the country. But if I don't see drastic improvement on offense, run game wise, especially with Quinn, then on Monday we're gonna have some serious talks.
Yeah,
I will not be pressing the panic button, but I will bring one in to the show, and we will have a panic button available if they don't look good versus Vandy.
And I think there still needs to be when we talk about butt whoopings and people saying Texas got destroyed and everything else, Texas looked really bad. I will give you that. Mm-hmm. They were in the game in the second half.
Oh yeah.
I remember Arkansas a few years back. That was a butt whooping.
Oh,
you weren't in that game. By the end of the first quarter, the game was over, and you never got back. You never So I'm saying that Texas was in the game and had a shot. I mean, technically, Texas was still in the game in the fourth quarter of this game. Now they weren't playing well enough to come back and win, but they were in it.
Yeah.
If they all of a sudden get one big play, it changes the entire complexion of the game because the defense was playing well enough. So I get how bad it looked in the game and how good we looked all season, that this was a big departure. But yeah, I'm not full on the panic button that you played a really good team. You got out coached. They had the better game plan. They were more ready for you than you were for them. And it showed, but it was not like this game 2-3 years ago, Georgia wins by 60. So this is not the end of the world. So I just have to talk to me off the ledge. But yeah, when you see 3+ is getting up there at 14%, come on, guys. That O-line is one of the best in the country up until the Georgia game. So all season long, one of the best in the country. One game, not good. Go back to see if they can get back to being one of the best in the country this week.
I think they still are. I just think Georgia's that good.
And I do. And
we had not seen Georgia play that defense play that well. They went into that game, I think, with 5 sacks on the season, ended up getting 7 in the game. They hadn't had a lot of those big plays like that, splash plays, and that was the best we have seen Georgia play. And give them credit, they're getting better every week, and they really did peak at the perfect time against Texas.
No, and for everybody who wants it to be, that it's about beating the best teams, beating the top 5 teams. I get that Texas does need to get over that hump, but there's a big difference between we can't beat the top 5 team and now every other team is going to beat us because we can't beat the top 5.
Yeah.
So I get you can be upset of, I don't know if we're there yet. I don't know if we have the national championship pedigree yet. I don't know if we're that real discussion, but the season's over stuff. We're going to allow all these sacks. Quinn Ewers can't play well. I don't know. I'm not going to be there yet.
No, I wouldn't. I give it the Vanderbilt game. See how they respond to adversity. See how Quinn responds to a week of ridicule and criticism. And then we'll kind of learn more about the character of this football team, which I think is really good. They went into that game against Georgia with 11 sacks and got 7 in the game. They went into that game against Texas with 5 takeaways on the entire season and got 4 in the game. So we just hadn't seen how they had 36 tackles for loss the entire season. They had 10 in that one game. We hadn't seen them play that well. We just hadn't seen them make that many splash play defense. They were a good defense. So remember I said they didn't have a calling card. They didn't have an identity, something they did better than everybody else. Well, against Texas, unfortunately, they formed an identity. There's pass rushing mofos who wreaked havoc and forced a lot of takeaways and negative plays. So we'll see if they keep that up, or I can't wait to see how Georgia responds. Honestly, I really can't.
Yeah,
because they hadn't gotten up for an opponent either until they played Texas, and then they played like a desperate team, backs up against the wall. And I want to see if we're going to see. Look how they gave up sort of 30-something points to Mississippi State. And yeah, when they played against Texas, they look like the 85 Bears. So let's see if they were just up for the Texas game too.
Yeah, and I mean they get a bye week afterwards too, so they're going into a bye. So they
they're going into a bye week. Okay, yeah. So I want to see how they respond after, because they're going to be high on themselves as they should be after whipping Texas. And how do they come off of the best game they've played this year? Do they have a bit of a letdown? That's something to watch too. Okay, there you go. Texas. How many sacks will they allow versus Vanderbilt? I got one. I'll just say one, just because Vanderbilt is a top 25 team. So I'll give them a list enough credit for that. All right, before we get into some Texas Vanderbilt conversation, also want to talk about the Texans a little bit. They actually signed a linebacker. I thought that was a good move for the Texans. They need some linebacker depth right now. We'll dive into that. We'll dive into the Cowboys 49ers matchup just a little bit. We'll go behind. Oh, sorry, we're not behind the Bush Carter. We already did that. We'll go into Rod's rant next segment, and I'll talk about that DeAndre Hopkins trade to the Kansas City Chiefs. The more and more I look at it, the more and more I like it as a Texans fan. I don't love it, but you gotta like the potential impact of what DeAndre Hopkins, that acquisition, means to that Kansas City offense. So we'll talk about that. Also coming up a little bit later on, if we get some time, I got another NFL topic that I want to bring out if we get a little bit of time. If not, we can put that on the table tomorrow. But first, let's get the Horn headlines. Let's get educated. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA last night, the Rockets lost their season opener to the Hornets after Charlotte overcame an 18-point deficit late in the first half. Alperen Sengun had 25 points and 18 rebounds, and Jalen Green added 28 more points, but a near triple-double performance from LaMelo Ball proved too much. Tonight, the Spurs and Mavs begin their seasons against each other at 6:30 on TNT. This will mark the regular season debut of Chris Paul as a Spur and Klay Thompson as a Maverick, with this Devin Vassell out for the game, recovering from an offseason surgery on his foot. And in the NFL, the 5-1 Vikings look to get back in the winning track against the Rams on Thursday Night Football. Amid trade rumors, Cooper Kupp is expected to make his return to the field tonight, which could be a big boost. With the Rams, with Puka Nacua still listed as questionable, with hope he could play tonight, and Jordan Whittington listed as out for the game. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Appreciate those. All right, a couple of items that I want to get to here. First one is about the Texans. Texans did sign Devin White. Seemed like it was a big deal because the name Devin White, you're probably familiar with. He was a first-round pick for the Tampa Bay Bucks in 2019, I believe it was, and he was a starter for them up until 2023. Started 13 games for him. Had 83 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss. After he was released by Tampa Bay, he signed with Philadelphia. 1 year, $4 million deal, kind of a mercenary deal. Whatever happened with Philadelphia, whether he dealt with an injury or whether he just got beat out, they never activated him. Nakobe Dean ended up taking his spot at linebacker, and they cut him. They released him. So the Texans, who really, really need linebacker depth because they've had multiple. Christian Harris has been dealing with injuries all season long, and they're not really sure when he's going to be available. So Christian Harris is like someone they got to obviously. They're waiting for him to get completely healthy. When he does, he's a really good player for them. But they haven't had him for a while. Azeez Al-Shaair, who was the linebacker they brought in this offseason, he recently dealt with an injury as well. A couple of weeks ago, he got injured. So they've been watching him, and there's been no update. I didn't see him on the list of players who were available at practice yesterday for the Texans. He hurt his knee, so he's still dealing with that. Henry To'oTo'o had a concussion 2 weeks ago, but he actually did practice yesterday. So Henry To'oTo'o may be back with the team, but Christian Harris still dealing with a calf injury of some kind. Azeez Al-Shaair dealing with that knee injury. So they're bringing in Devin White because they need another body. They had Jake Hansen, who actually had a really good game in week 7. They had him along with like Neville Hewitt, another linebacker available. And D'Amico Ryans has a reputation for getting the most out of young, really underrated linebackers. He's actually done a great job. It makes sense because he played linebacker, being able to maximize the talent there. And it's possible that if Devin White if he's a nice reclamation redemption project, it's possible he can actually get some playing time. Now, you wouldn't. That's not ideal. You would like for some of these other guys to come back, Christian Harris or Aziz Al-Shir or Henry To'oTo'o, who's already practicing, for those guys to be available. But if you have injuries at those positions, Devin White got a lot of upside. I mean, it's a guy that was a starter in the league in 2023, got beat out for whatever reason in 2024. But I think that that's good value for the Texans. I mean, you picking up off the trash heap, pretty much. Get pennies on the dollar for this guy.
Yeah.
If it works out, he can be a depth piece for you with a first round caliber skill set. Can be a depth piece for you. And Texans they've been doing this, right? They did that corner not too long ago with CJ Henderson and Jeffrey Okudah. It didn't work out necessarily, but it seems to be part of their acquisition philosophy. Hey, let's get these guys who once had a huge upside, these redemption projects, and see if we can revitalize their skill sets. And if we can, that'd be tremendous value for us. So it hadn't really worked out for them, but I do like that. I like that mentality. I like that philosophy. It's just a smart way to extract more value from all those acquisitions. So there you go. Texas signed a linebacker. I want to get into the Texans matchup with the Colts a little bit, but we can do that tomorrow. We still have some time and get into that matchup. But the one thing you're watching for with the Texans is pass protection. That has been a big topic of conversation among Texans fans the last couple of days, because coming off that Green Bay game, Green Bay only blitzed 17% of the time, and yet they were able to apply pressure nearly 50% of the time on CJ Stroud, 50% of his dropbacks and pass attempts. And something else that I've been tracking is the amount of stunts and twists that teams are using against the Texans and how effective they are. That's something that Packers did a lot of. They didn't blitz a lot, but they used a lot of twists and stunts, played a lot of games up front. It seems like teams more and more are trying, especially on the road, which they were last week against Green Bay, to test the communication or lack thereof on the offensive line. And it's working. And that's one. So there's no talent deficiency on the Texans offensive line. They got tons of talent. They actually are one of the more talented teams in the NFL. Their issues on the offensive line now are basically communication issues on based on simulated pressures, and anytime teams are running twists and stunts about how to pass off pass rushers in pass protection. They're terrible at that. Their running backs and tight ends are not necessarily capable blockers, so they don't really have pass protection support from anything outside of the O-line. The running backs and tight ends aren't great in pass protection. They do miss a lot of – they're not assignment sound, so they do miss some assignments. And Bobby Slowick, and Sark has dealt with this a little bit too, when you love the condensed compressed sets, like the Shanahan clan does, the McShanahan clan. They love it's a conceptual signature. They're really tight splits, reduced splits, condensed compressed sets. Nick Saban calls them squeeze splits. They're all talking about the same thing. When you bring everybody close to the line of scrimmage, it does give you advantages in creating space on the outside, being able to dictate how DBs have to play. They got to play off coverage because they don't want to get rubbed and picked. They got to play outside leverage because they're giving up too much space on the outside. So you can really dictate the coverage technique and the leverage of the defensive back. But one thing it hurts you with, and guys like Spagnola does a really good job of this. Brian Flores did a good job against the Texans with this. Some of the better defensive coordinators, they love going up against condensed compressed sets because you bring their DBs closer to the line of scrimmage, which, by the way, Sark likes, right? Sark says, I want DBs to be run defenders. And if I bring them close to the line of scrimmage with a condensed compressed set, I force them to be a run defender. I force that cornerback or that safety or that nickel slot corner to basically be a linebacker. And I can tell you right now, I don't like that. I'm uncomfortable with it as a DB. I don't want to be down in that mix either. So that's part of his plan. But there are some DCs, they like to involve their DBs in the pressure packages. And when you're going up against that kind of DC, it may be, it may be a smarter decision to use more spread sets, because when you bring all the DBs closer together, there's no way you can account for who's coming and who's going. And so you just added another element of basically mystery for your offensive line in setting their pass protection, because instead of just setting it with the front, it's like, all right, we're going to set it based on the front. Mike linebacker's there, and we're going to basically set our pass protection based on the front seven, which is what it usually is. You now brought the DBs in, you brought the corners in, you brought the safeties in, and essentially closer they are to the line of scrimmage, they also have to be accounted for in case they do decide to blitz. And then you can, as a DC, you can decide, all right, you know what, let's get real funky. I'm going to drop my defensive ends, and they're going to have the flat. I want to bring the corner, so that the offensive line, they know who's coming, they know what's coming, they don't know who's coming. They know somebody's coming. They just don't know from what level those guys are coming from. So it also can add a lot of difficulty in pass protection. And I think for the Texans, that is something they got to consider. Love the compressed sets. Also makes you vulnerable, and it almost can be a liability in pass protection when you're bringing players from the second and the third level. So I think all of that stuff combined are issues for the Texans right now in pass protection. Could it just be the Green Bay Packers were really good at it? Yeah, but that's the whole point. They're not good at it. The Packers were not a good pressure-oriented defense. That was the best pressure performance they had all season, and they didn't blitz a lot to do it. So that's the concern, is that you got teams that are now able to get 50% pressure rates against C.J. Stroud who aren't even majoring in pressure. That's not even what they do really well. And so the question is, can the Colts, who, remember, I told you guys after their first win, the Texans had over the Colts, I came in here on Monday and said, yeah, the offensive line looks a little shaky. Looks a little shaky in pass protection. I think it looks a little shaky there. And turns out they were a little leaky in pass protection, and they still are. And I think that those issues, like kind of it's an amalgamation of, it's an accumulation of different things there, but they got to start addressing those one by one. And I think the communication is the first thing you got to address. They're terrible at communicating, and an offensive line that can't communicate well, especially on the road, you're done, son. Got no shot. No shot. Teams will use that against you time and time again. So that's the Texans. They're going to figure that out. They got to figure that out this week going into that matchup with the Indianapolis Colts. All right, there you go. That's some Texans and Colts discussion. We come back. We got Raj Ram today. We're going to talk about DeAndre Hopkins and his that trade that sent him to Kansas City, what it means for the rest of the league. I'll tell you what to look out for. There are several ways they could decide to deploy DeAndre Hopkins and weaponize DeAndre Hopkins. All of them are pretty scary. We'll talk about those on the other side and talk about how this acquisition could change the worst season yet, the worst start to a season yet for Patrick Mahomes in his career. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Horn. Rod Davis coming back on Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to Rod's rant of the day here, and I want to review the trade that happened yesterday, the trade that sent DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs. And this trade is important. I mean, the rest of the league is hoping that the slide we've seen from Kansas City, the regression we've seen from the Kansas City offense, that it is actually, something that is substantive, something that continues, because it's really hard to imagine, that the Kansas City Chiefs can three-peat with their offense struggling the way it is. And it's mostly Patrick Mahomes. And he still find a way to win. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is just that good, right? He's got 8 giveaways. He's got 8 interceptions. All these interceptions are in the first 3 quarters of games. Matter of fact, he's got the most interceptions in the first 3 quarters of games this season. He's got 0 interceptions in the fourth quarter. That's when he's clutch. He really transforms into a different quarterback in the fourth quarter. You go watch him, and I watch a lot of Patrick Mahomes, and anytime I can. This season, he's average to below average to borderline mediocre at times, first 3 quarters of the game. And the fourth quarter, he puts a cape on and just transforms into, it's like, oh, there's old Patrick Mahomes. There he is. That's the guy that's the guy that was almost, crowned the mini GOAT. He's going to be the next GOAT after Tom Brady. And this season, he's doing the same thing. That's why they're undefeated. But it's because he is clutch. He's showing off his clutch gene this season more than any other season so far. But he's got more interceptions than touchdowns, 8-6. His passer rating since 2022. So 2022, 23, and 24. So the last 3 years, his passer rating has dropped from 105.2 to 92 to 82. That's where his passer rating is now. His EPA, his passing EPA, has dropped from plus 181.9, not a typo, that's just how good he is, to plus 16.7 to plus 8.4. Same time span, last 3 years. He has thrown an interception in every game, at least one in every game. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass since week 4 against the Chargers. And his last multi-touchdown game came in week 3 against the Atlanta Falcons. His wide receiver unit is they're underachieving, to say the least. Xavier Worthy leads the team among healthy receivers with 198 receiving yards. That's tied for 65th in the NFL. Justin Watson has about 95. McCole Hardman has 50. Right now, that's about it. And so you bringing in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins can help you in a lot of different ways. I think the first way it helps you, if you're obviously, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, I think it helps you in the red zone. I just, obviously read out some stats for you, but here's some red zone stats about Patrick Mahomes just this season. In the red zone, he has 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, got a passer rating of 74 in the red zone, and his passing EPA is the 5th worst in the NFL in the red zone. Lamar Jackson, who just surpassed Patrick Mahomes with the best odds to win MVP, he has 13 red zone touchdown passes. He has 13 red zone touchdown passes. He's been unbelievable so far. It kind of gives you an idea about how far behind Patrick Mahomes is in that pace. And if you go look at red zone offense, or at least red zone receivers, that's one of the places where DeAndre Hopkins can contribute immediately, because the red zone offensive playbook, it's not that expansive. I mean, most teams, they don't have 100 something red zone plays. They have a certain kind of a certain section of the playbook that's for red zone plays, and then they got the red zone passing plays like to go to. So I think he can help you right away in just learning the red zone passing concepts, because the route tree is not that elaborate or expansive or sophisticated, because you only got 20 yards to work with there. So for DeAndre Hopkins, that may be where you see him early on make his biggest impact, because right now the Chiefs have posted, how about this, a 47.8 red zone touchdown percentage. That's the worst in the Mahomes era. The Chiefs, that is the worst. Since Patrick Mahomes has been the starting quarterback, they have the worst touchdown percentage in the red zone they've ever had. And DeAndre Hopkins in the red zone, he's awesome. He's got the 8th most targets since 2017 in the red zone, 18th most catches, 12th most receiving yards, and the 9th most receiving touchdowns in the red zone since 2017. He's a naturally gifted in the red zone because he's all about turning 50-50 situations into 80-20 situations, and separation has never really been his calling card. He's not a receiver that needs great separation to make a play. We talked about this yesterday, and you're not going to get a lot of separation in the red zone. It just ain't going to happen. It can't happen. It's tough. I mean, every now and then you get it, but it's usually through like a corn dog route that we talk. Hell, Texas had one of those routes where you go arrow motion return, try to lose the defensive back. Maybe it's a rub route, something like that. You may get separation. For the most part, nope, you're just going up and trying to outbox defenders and going up for 50-50 balls and jump balls in the red zone a lot of the times, using your body control and your catch radius. And he does that as well as any receiver in the league. So red zone, that's the place, I think, first and foremost, where you're going to see DeAndre Hopkins have his most immediate impact. Then after that, this is something that's new to DeAndre Hopkins' skill set, because when he was with the Texans and even when he was first with the Arizona Cardinals, he was always an outside receiver for the most part. I mean, of course, there was some instances where they would move him inside, but he was most time he's always on the outside as an X or a Z. He was on the outside, and that was really where he spent the majority of his time and made most of his plays. Last year, the Tennessee Titans actually used him in the slot a little bit more, at least more than he's accustomed to. In 2023, he excelled in the slot, though. He averaged 2.95 yards per route run out of the slot last year. That was fifth best. And after he dealt with the injury, he had a little bit of an MCL injury he was dealing with in training camp. And once he got completely healthy, like weeks 11 through 18, he really started to assert himself. He was third in ASS in that time period, weeks 11 through 18. That's average separation score. So get your mind out of the gutter. He was 12th in win rate, tied for 12th in win rate overall. And he was 32nd in yards per route run. During that same stretch, man, he was winning on a variety of routes. He had the 16th best win rate running corner routes, 6th best win rate running post routes. He had the 15th best win rate running go routes, his crosser routes, where he's crossing, obviously going across the field where it's deep or shallow. He was 31st in win rate running those routes. So not only was he using the slot a lot, but they actually expanded his route tree a little bit more from the slot. So if they need him to be a slot receiver, he actually can do that for Kansas City. And they may decide to use him that way. Kansas City, you go look at it, they throw a lot to their slot guys. The Chiefs have the fewest targets to wide receivers lined up outside on the line of scrimmage. It means that's your true X. If you're lined up outside on the line of scrimmage, you can't move, right? Usually you're done. You're set there. That's why you're on the line of scrimmage. And the Chiefs like to throw to a lot of motion guys, like to move their guys around. So if you're out there and you're the flanker, or you're out there and you're the Z, then you can put that guy in motion. And so look at the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers, the targets to wide receivers. They have the fewest targets to wide receivers lined up on the outside of the line of scrimmage. They have 526 since 2018. The league average is 772. And DeAndre Hopkins, since 2018, sixth most targets when lined up outside on the line of scrimmage. So like I said, that's his home out there. You need to be outside, and to be that guy you can move Xavier Worthy inside in the slot if you want to try to get him matched up on a safety or get him a more favorable matchup. But if you need Hopkins to work inside, he proved last year he can work in the slot. You can keep X-Man on the outside. Hopkins has 180 targets out wide off the line, 174 from the slot in that time span. Chiefs 14th most targets to off-ball wide receivers and the 5th most targets to wide receivers in the slot. If they want to weaponize you, maximize your impact, usually Andy Reid's going to find a way to put you in that slot. Just the way he operates. I think he feels better about engineering matchup advantages and engineering the matchups that he wants with guys in that slot. So I think you'll see him in the red zone, make an immediate impact. If they need him, he can do almost anything they need. They need to be the number one receiver because they're still waiting on X-Man to find his identity and find his role with the team because they're trying to push X-Man into being the number one guy. They really are. They've the last couple of games, if you go look at it, X-Man, Xavier Worthy, they've actually kind of ushered him into that wide receiver one role. He's getting first read target share. And that, I mean, if you're getting first read target share over Travis Kelce, then I would say they're trying to, put you in a position to be the number one wide receiver. And that's what Kansas City has done recently with Xavier Worthy. He's running fewer go routes. Remember, in weeks 1 through 6, he was essentially a go route gadget player for you. So he's running fewer and fewer go routes down the field, and now they got him running more crossing routes. They got him running, routes down the field per NFL Worthy versus press coverage. Now, this is the thing. This is why they want to put maybe him inside and put DeAndre Hopkins outside, because if he's not dealing with press coverage really well, I believe per NFL Pro Worthy this year versus press, 3 targets, 0 catches. So he's not dealing with press really well. But I think if you bring in DeAndre Hopkins in there, really physical receiver, put him outside, it's really hard to press any receiver in the slot. You don't do a lot of there's not a lot of pressing receivers in the slot because you can move them around and they can end up getting picked off because the guys in the slot are usually either next to a bunch. You can reduce the split easier because you're off the line of scrimmage to get a better release or to get a free release, I should say. And for Xavier Worthy, considering his size, he needs that, he needs that free release. But they've tried. He had in week 7, I brought this up earlier, Xavier Worthy, 120 uncatchable air yards in week 7. They were launching it deep to him and chunking it deep. They just couldn't get on the same page, he and Patrick Mahomes. But like I said, go look at first read target share. Last week, he was at 35%. Travis Kelce was at 18%. 2 weeks ago, Worthy was at 27%. Travis Kelce was at 23% first read target share. That means that's the first guy that Patrick Mahomes is looking at. And weeks 1 through 6, he had go routes 34% of the time. Last week, he only had go routes on 12% of his on 12% of his snaps. So they're more and more sophisticated route trees for him. 31% crossing route rate in week 7. And weeks 1 through 6, he only ran crossing routes like 19% of the time. The problem with Xavier Worthy is that's why I think one of the reasons they're getting DeAndre Hopkins is so they can put him in the most advantageous situations because Hop can do anything. Put him outside, put him in the slot, make him your red zone guy. He needs to be the number 1 receiver. He can be number 1 receiver. Does he need to be a complimentary number 2 receiver? He can be that. I think he can. Now, he hasn't really done that, but he can be that if he needs to be. But I think he's going to come in and be the number 1 guy potentially while Xavier Worthy gets acclimated to the role of being the guy and featured in the passing game. Xavier Worthy's 1.19 yards per route run. It ranks 64th among 82 receivers with 20-plus targets this season. It's 9th among rookies with these 20 targets. He hadn't found his way yet. We know he's talented. That's why they drafted him in the first round. They just got to figure out how he works in this offense and how they can maximize and weaponize him. So it's taking them a little while. And while they're figuring things out, let's bring on a vet who we can automatically throw into any system and we can throw into any situation. And we know that he will acclimate to it really well and adapt to it well and can be, like I just pointed out, anything you need him to be. He can be the red zone weapon, number 1. He can be the number 2, inside the slot, play outside, doesn't matter. So because Xavier Worthy, like I said, I think Xavier Worthy is still going to work out, but there are some numbers that are suggesting that they're saying he's hit a rookie wall already. And I think it's way too early for a rookie wall for Xavier Worthy. But I will admit, 67th out of 68 qualified wide receivers in route win rate. He doesn't win a lot on his own now. And when they're playing bump and run on him, he's winning less. And if you play outside, teams going to play bump and run on you a little bit more. He hasn't become the deep threat and connection that they thought he would be with Patrick Mahomes. They're working on that, but I think DeAndre Hopkins can help solve a lot of these issues for the Chiefs, whether it be the Patrick Mahomes, slow start, whether it be juicing and bump and getting the wide receivers to be able to get into roles that they're more comfortable with, that they are better suited for, like Xavier Worthy. I think DeAndre Hopkins solves a lot of those issues. So there you go. That's my 2 cents on DeAndre Hopkins and his impact with the Kansas City Chiefs. We come back. We'll wrap it up, put it in the oven, let you know who said that. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify who said that. We'll have that next when we come back on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday, and the new theme for this Thursday is all about basketball because it's officially basketball season. And my co-host, the Billionaire Patrick Davis, who is a huge basketball fan, he wants to celebrate the start of the NBA season with having our new theme Thursday focus on all the jams referencing and related to basketball. So we appreciate him there. We also appreciate Patrick coming up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. That is also posted there on X at the Horn ATX. Pretty simple question. How many sacks will Texas allow against Vanderbilt? And right now, looks like one sack is leading the way. 33% of you think the Longhorns will allow at least one sack versus Vanderbilt, and 30% of you say Texas will allow 0 sacks. That would be nice versus the Vanderbilt Commodores. All right, go vote on that when you get a chance. And now it's time to play Who Said That? That's when Patrick picks a piece of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And based on the context clues or the familiarity of the voice, you have to identify and recall who said that.
Coach, how are you? Troy Finnegan, CU Sports Report. That's 3 straight road games now where you guys have played 3 of the most complete games since you've been here. Is there something about this group that likes going and playing in hostile environments?
We like to be booed and they say it and hate it. That turns us on. Turns us on. It's kind of sexy, matter of fact. That's how I felt when I played. I mean, I love to be on the road and get booed and they say it and hated on it. I think we like being the underdogs and we like being those type of people. Not that we don't look at the betting line or whatever. Underdogs meaning on the road, away from home. But we like that. We like that. We really do.
All right, there you go. Dion prime time. Saying they like being the underdog. Yeah. Hey, I tried to tell y'all about Colorado. Colorado, can we agree they're doing better than most people thought in the Big 12? Everybody thought they'd be trash. And I'm like, they have the best quarterback potentially in the country, definitely in the conference, and the best player potentially in the conference, but potentially in the country, but definitely in the conference. How are they going to be trash? I don't understand that. They got
No.
more NFL talent than anybody else in the Big 12. So
No.
that's they should. So what are they 4-2? What are they now?
Yeah,
What are-
4
I
and
gotta
2, I
get-
believe,
see.
right? Yeah.
4-2. Yeah, I think they're 4-2. So they're definitely. I said they'd make a bowl game. They're definitely gonna make a bowl game.
Yeah.
They're not gonna challenge to win the Big 12 though, because was that BYU and who's the other undefeated team? Iowa State.
Iowa
Good
State
Lord,
coming
Iowa
back.
freaking State. What is happening? I've not watched enough Big 12 to know what's going on with Iowa State, but I know Matt Campbell is at his best when nobody assumes he's going to be good. When everybody when everybody thought Iowa State was going to be in the college football playoff, remember they had Brock Purdy and they had Brees Hall and Charlie Cole. Everybody said they're going to the college football playoff this year. They had one of the worst seasons Matt Campbell's had as a head coach. Now everybody giving up on them. Oh, new Big 12. Iowa State's going to be forgotten about, and they're undefeated. What? Matt Campbell. He said he loves being the underdog. There's some coaches just coach better from that underdog mentality, and they coach better when nobody gives them a damn chance. Tom Herman was like that. He's better when he's coaching like that. But yeah, we shall see. But there you go. That's the who said that. Thank you, Patrick, for that. We appreciate all of your efforts and all that you do, all your creativity and energy. We also appreciate all you guys out there for watching and for listening. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. And until next time, for my man Patrick and for myself, hook 'em and peace.